Okay. Well, that's awkward. Did I just go off on that whole spiel and it was quiet the entire time? Wonderful. Outstanding! But that's exactly how you know it's a stream with Samuel Ronan, because technical difficulties. Yeah, I guess OBS, when it updates, decides to forget what the defaults are, and then it just loses its mind, I guess. So there is that. Anywho, we are officially on the Republican primary ballot. May 5th, Ohio's 15th congressional district, in the Republican primary. Yours truly, Samuel Ronan, on the ballot, gonna whoop Mike Carey's ass because of people like you helping, supporting, and spreading the word. So that's what I was saying in the lead up to the technical difficulty. Which actually does kind of segue into one of the stories we will be discussing, which is Les Wexner donating to basically a lot of Ohio Republicans, and those Republicans being like, oh dear, he's a pedophile, and not a pedophile, but the pedophile. Actually, he was the first pedophile on Pedo Island, and now he's donating to our favorite candidates? Oh no! So we will be covering that. And, yeah, let's jump into it. All right, so, oh wait, the shameless plug. Samuel Ronan, congressional candidate. We stream Tuesday through Thursday, 7 to 10. Tuesdays is American politics, Wednesdays is foreign politics, and Thursdays is a recap of everything. You can find us on www.samronan.com, unlike Amy Goodman's War and Peace Report, because that sounds way cooler, right? And on social media, I believe everything is at Ronan for Progress, but if you type in Samuel Ronan, you'll find us on Facebook, not Reddit. Actually, the only thing we're on right now is Facebook and YouTube. All right, so anyway, I guess I need to get better at my shameless plug. I just lost some viewers. My bad, guys. But that being said, we're going to jump right into the stream. All right, here we go. And we're going to start off strong with the hot podcast.
Lex Wexner is a longtime benefactor of Jeffrey Epstein and at one point was Epstein's only documented client. Maria Farmer was abused in a house attached to Wexner's Ohio property and guarded by Wexner security staff. Regina Giuffre was named Wexner in a deposition as one of the men she was trafficked to. Wexner also paid for Epstein's home in New York City. There is probably no one more important as it relates to the financing and the work of this investigation, with which both sides of the aisle are interested in, have voted to move forward, than ensuring that we bring Mr. Wexner in to come and be deposed by this committee. Public reporting has documented their long-standing ties. He should answer our questions in a non-partisan way to get the truth of the Epstein investigation, and that is the motion.
So, like I said, Les Wexner, bad guy. Very, very bad guy. At one point in time, the only bad guy. So, it is actually not a stretch to suggest that when Epstein met Les Wexner, it was that partnership, that meeting, that actually allowed Epstein to build an international child sex trafficking ring that includes, but is not limited to, murder, cannibalism, torture, and trafficking. If Epstein had not met Wes Wexner, it may have actually been possible that this sex trafficking ring would have never formed or grown from there. It required Les Wexner being an evil son of a bitch and Epstein being able to reach out to him for this entire thing to get to the point where it was in 2018. Or allegedly still ongoing today, given that there's a significant cover-up still going on. Now, with that being said, I gotta point out that several major Republican candidates received donations from Les Wexner, not least of which was Mike Carey. Now, some people are arguing, well, he didn't receive a lot of money. Sure. But considering the news and the release and who he was, you can't honestly tell me that you didn't know who he was or what he was about, right? Secondly, Mike Carey is a coal lobbyist. Now, I don't know much about the specific Ohio economy, but pretty sure it's not that high. Less than 3%. Oh, WordPress. Oof. I guess we need to take that with a grain of salt. See, that's manufacturing. Where's... Oh my goodness, this is an actual, like, report. Coal. All right. Goods manufacturing, 0.8%. Oh, sorry. 0.8%. And we'll go ahead and increase that a little bit so y'all can see. The 0.8% of total Ohio manufacturing jobs as of 2023. 0.8%. And it's not just coal. It's petroleum and coal. So coal might even specifically be less. And Mike Carey is a coal lobbyist for less than 0.8% of jobs in the state of Ohio. And that's his claim to fame. And as an actual congressman, he went from a lobbyist to a congressman, which that should really spark a lot of questions. But then, to add insult to injury, most of his voting record is in favor of, imagine that, business records and business benefits and so on and so forth. For something that is less than 1% of the total workforce in Ohio. Now, on that note, I need to see something real quick because I just got a hilarious text message. What? Hold on a second. I need to see if I can... First of all, can I open an image? No, I can't. Okay. Well, that kind of sucks. All right. So I'm going to have to post something to my Facebook real quick. And then see if there's a way I can just share the image without doxing my personal Facebook. Because you know how the Department of Homeland Security claims that they are, trying to get information about people posting on Facebook and whatever? Well, I legitimately got a text message today, just now, like in the middle of this stream. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting like somebody from... Oh, hold on. How does this work? Open link in new tab. Open image in new tab. All right, here we go. I just want to make sure I'm not doxing myself because I have a nasty habit of doing that. So, yo, I am not making this shit up. Is this Sam Ronan? Who is this? This is Homeland Security Investigations. This is a warning regarding your threats to ICE. Threatening federal law enforcement could constitute violations of 18 U.S.C. 115, and you could face federal penalties. First of all, it's fake for two reasons. First of all, it would be Department of Homeland Security, right? Like, it would be the whole thing. Regarding my threats to ICE, made where and when and how, right? Also, it wouldn't be a text message. I would be getting an actual warrant and a deposition. There would be a link highlighting or anything. Like, there'd just be anything that's way more official than this. So, be aware that this number, 202-978-6747, may very well try and intimidate you for calling out ICE, which is even funnier because it's a First Amendment protected right to call out ICE, and ICE is objectively doing heinous things in gross violation of the Fourth Amendment. So, I mean, come at me, bro. Okay.
So we have a co-conspirator in the Epstein files, and his name is Leslie Wexner. He's a billionaire. He's from Ohio, and he's had a few businesses. Victoria's Secret's the big one, Bath and Body Works, Abercrombie and Finch. He's all into these companies, and they've been funding him, who turned around and funded Epstein. But
all right, hold on a second, guys. I did not sleep well today at all. Like, I've been up since 3:30 basically, and I'm normally not up that early, so I have a bit of a headache. I'm gonna try and muscle through it. I don't think it's gonna get worse, but give me a second to recuperate here. Okay, gonna let that water sink in. I bet that's one of those salty maggots. I mean, possibly. It's a 202 number though, so so 202 numbers are Washington D.C., right? So it would actually be hilarious if it was Mike Carey's chief of staff, which is somebody that I have met. Oh, they can fake it. Go. Back in my day, you couldn't fake phone numbers, so how would I know the difference? But you're right, yeah, they could fake it. Yeah, that's right. You can, doesn't like WhatsApp, or aren't there apps that just let you use a fake phone number but then make regular? So yeah, no, you're right. But it's the audacity for me, fam. Chat. It's the audacity for me that they would actually call from a 202 number and then leave that. In fact, I'm going to respond to them. This is Homeland Security. You do realize impersonating a federal agent on behalf of a federal agency and threatening a citizen is also a federal offense. All three of those activities could themselves constitute a federal felony charge. I am screenshotting. Let's see. This message and sending it to the Federal Bureau. I don't know how to spell bureau. Bureau of Investigations Online Criminal Task Force website. Have a blessed day. Smiley face once I find it. Oh my goodness. Like, you can't even make this shit up though. You're making threats against ICE, that's a felony. It's like, and you're pretending to be a federal agent, which is a worse felony. Like, I can at least argue the First Amendment and then point to the fact that they were violating people's Fourth Amendment rights and violating the Third Amendment by demanding housing, which violates the, not to give soldiers quarter, right? So, like, I at least have an argument in court. Like, yeah, I am criticizing ICE for acting like a secret police force that's being held unaccountable after murdering people and still no actions being taken. I am outraged and disgusted, as every American should be. But I'm not pretending to be a federal agent about it. Oh, my goodness. So, I don't know if this guy was getting to make a point or not. Okay. So let me disconnect my phone here from
You were also following some breaking news. You have a top prosecutor in Minnesota now saying that officials provided wrong information about a shooting by an immigration agent last month. Walk us through this.
Yeah, this is a fascinating development. So basically what happened earlier this week was that top prosecutors, federal prosecutors in Minneapolis moved to dismiss charges against two men, one of whom was shot by ICE officers in Minneapolis last month. And they cited new video that they'd gotten their hands on that disputed the account of the ICE officers. Cut to today. And we have the acting director of ICE himself coming out with a stunning rebuke of these two officers and their handling of the statement. This is part of it here. You can see it. It says sworn testimony provided by two separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements. Again, this is the acting director of ICE. He goes on to say both officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of this investigation. He says things like lying under oath is a serious federal offense. And then he goes on to say, upon the conclusion of the investigation, the officers may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. So, Yasmin, the charges against those two.
So the good news is that ICE is finally getting held somewhat accountable. At least some of the officers themselves are. Now we just need, the leadership to get held accountable for, ordering and creating circumstances that, violated people's civil liberties and their Bill of Rights. So it just seems like they're going after low-hanging fruit and pretending as if that's good. Again, they also said that they left Minneapolis, and they haven't. They literally haven't, and Minneapolis has barely been in the news, right? Like, this isn't even about Minneapolis. This is just about two ICE agents that happen to be a part of a shooting. Now, they mention that it's Minneapolis in the hashtags and in the about, but not in the title, right? So the reporting is more so than anything else reactively discussing ICE and ICE activities, but not broadly covering the fact that Minneapolis is still under invasion by U.S. forces.
Two men, one of whom was Venezuelan, in the country illegally. Those have been dropped. They're not facing any criminal charges tied to this encounter that happened that resulted in the shooting last month. And an attorney for the one who was shot in the leg, because the backstory had been that he had been one of several people who had attacked ICE officers. The attorney saying that their client is relieved, they're feeling exonerated, and now that man wants to pursue justice, in his words, against the ICE officers, and is now cooperating with investigators as they look into these alleged, appearing by that statement, lies by these two ICE officers. And again, that's according to their boss. We've seen nothing like this throughout this operation. Yasmin.
Yeah, this.
Well, at least it's gaining some traction. But the DOJ dropped the charges against them anyways. Wait, hold on. What is this?
In Minnesota, two ICE
drops charges against too many. Oh, okay. So it's the same story, but from Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman with the War and Peace Report. What's this one? Is this still about the same thing? Yeah, it's gotta be, since it was 3 days ago. Okay, so
the shooting by an ICE officer in Minneapolis last month sparked immediate protests. At the time, DHS said the officer fired in self-defense, hitting one suspect in the leg after they...
Oh, no, we are talking about a different shooting. Okay.
Said he was attacked by multiple men.
What we saw was three individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself.
But tonight, a stinging rebuke of two ICE officers from the acting director of the agency, who says they appear to have lied about the shooting of that Venezuelan man. Todd Lyons saying a joint review by ICE and the Department of Justice of video evidence has revealed that sworn testimony provided by two separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements, adding the unnamed officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation and may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. Julio Cesar Sosa Solis, who was shot in the leg, and Alfredo Alejandro Alhorna had been charged with assaulting federal officers. Tonight, those charges have been dropped.
Well, look at that. It's almost as if ICE was being used to instigate violence and create an excuse to implement martial law. And not only did they fail, now they're actually having to, pay even more dividends by not being able to charge innocent people for crimes that they obviously didn't commit. So no, this is actually great. Maybe this administration pushed too hard too fast with trying to shore up the fascism, and didn't realize that Americans, although willing to comply with abuse and oppression, aren't willing to actually watch their fellow Americans, or immigrants as the case may be, just be murdered in cold blood. So that's reassuring. We have found a red line that Americans are not willing to allow to be crossed, and that's open murders in our streets. The problem, however, is the red line wasn't the fact that we got invaded by our own government, and it hasn't resulted in massive protests across the country. It's been several protests across the country over like a day or two, or a weekend, or every other weekend, or something like that, but nothing sustained. We are not actively marching in the streets demanding the shutdown, general strike, recalls, and this, that, and the other, right? It's just, oh darn, Minneapolis is getting out of pocket. We should organize in downtown. We're going to march, we're going to speak, and then we're going to call it a day. So we still have yet to find the threshold of what actually enrages people enough to, like, risk their jobs. And comfort, I guess, is the real thing. But hey, progress. And I will take progress over nothing. All right. Speaking of regressive policies,
President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown is now driving foreign-born truckers off the road. You were telling me you used to see 50 or so foreign-born students every year, and this year, how many would you say you've seen?
Probably since the new administration, maybe 10.
Disrupting an industry that's increasingly dependent on foreign labor.
you know what's nuts too? Trucking is actually a good paying job, right? Like, they're coming for our jobs, and usually we're talking about, manual labor in fields in egregious conditions, right? Or in the service industries, right? Like hospitality or servers or anything like that, right? Because landscaping, right? That's the traditional work of the immigrant, right? But people forget that immigrants are doctors, they're nurses, they're teachers, they are manufacturers, they're maintenance technicians, they're truck drivers, they're postal workers, they're any number of things, right? Immigrants are integrated in every single aspect of our society as anybody else. But the fact that this administration is choosing to target immigrant workers in critically manned fields such as truck driving is absolutely insane, because that can only actually harm the country as a whole. And it's not as if there's any justification for it in the first place, but it just goes to show that the administration's policy is not to improve the economy, not to improve the living conditions of people, not to do literally anything meaningful or beneficial for our nation or our international relations. The policies of this administration are purely white supremacy. That's it. If you look at all of the major initiatives on domestic policy, on economic policy, even on foreign policy, they always disparage against non-white countries and non-white personnel and non-white dominated industries, right? Agriculture is dominated by immigrant labor. Hospitality, dominated by non-white immigrant labor, right? So, and now trucking, also heavily reliant upon non-white, but immigrant labor. So, and then you see the erasure of DEI, you see the erasure of actually forcing polling locations to shut down investigations in predominantly POC places, minimizing or outright denying the impact of black and brown people in U.S. history, and then, of course, disparaging African nations, Latin American countries, and the Middle East when they don't support his fascist policies. So it's absolutely, I don't even want to say eye-opening. It's undeniable that all of these policies are racist in design. By their very nature, they are racist. And all they constantly end up doing is hurting everybody. The entire country. Not just immigrants, not just white people, everyone. Because guess what? Immigration is the backbone of our society. It is literally the definition of America, the melting pot nation of the world. I bring you love, the friendly type of love. Well, I appreciate that. Because I received a very credible threat from the Department of Homeland Security because they had to verify my phone number first. But yeah. And then, of course, ICE agents getting involved, go figure, right? Because it's not about enforcement. It's not about immigration. It's about terror and, well, terror. Instilling fear in the immigrant community.
Thank you.
ICE agents now showing up at truck wait stations as the Trump administration limits visas for truckers. Thousands of drivers taken out of service by the Department of Transportation for failing to meet federal English language requirements, according to Secretary Sean Duffy. And shippers say they're struggling to find drivers to take certain routes. Trump administration officials say the crackdown's necessary to make the roads safer after several high-profile accidents involving immigrant truck drivers this year, like this high-speed collision on a highway in California, where Homeland Security officials say an undocumented truck driver caused a deadly crash.
Yeah, and we're certain that it was the undocumented immigrant driver that was at fault and not the egregious working conditions where companies use the fact that they are undocumented immigrants against them and threaten them with deportation unless they work grueling hours for extremely less pay than what they deserve or earn. But we never have that conversation, do we? No, it's like, oh, it was brown person do bad thing, brown person problem. Instead of the business and the leadership of that business who created the circumstance to begin with by hiring the undocumented worker. Because in the grand scheme of things, I personally do not give a damn if you're an illegal immigrant, if you're here illegally, right? Because we should, as a country, the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world, we should be able to streamline that process. You're here, you're doing work, let's get you a green card. Oops-a-daisy, we can let you have, one, misdemeanor slap on the wrist. We'll even charge you that misdemeanor. But then you're a part of society, so let's move on, right? There's always a humane way to treat this, and I get that. I'm a Republican candidate actively running for Congress in a Republican district, and I'm talking about handling immigration in a humane way, right? I get that. I get that that might not appeal to traditional conservative voters, but that's why I'm trying to appeal to independent voters. Suffice to say, that notwithstanding, we can agree that there are a not insignificant number of people in this country without documentation, right? Undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call it, right? The polite thing to say is undocumented. Okay. So, how are these undocumented people making a living? Well, they're being hired. They're working somewhere, which means the person that hired them either did a background check and found out that they were undocumented, or didn't do a background check and don't care, or know for a fact that they're undocumented and are using that against the undocumented migrant. Either which way, the undocumented person is getting paid to do work by somebody who has the job, the business. So, if we want to hold undocumented migrants accountable for whatever being undocumented as a minimum, okay, then why has there not been a single, not one, not a single solitary arrest of anyone, of any business in any city of any state in the country that employed undocumented migrants? Not one. Because if you really want to crack down on undocumented migration, labor, evasion of whatever that they're claiming, even if those things were true, and they're not, but if they were, you would go after the source of the problem, which is the fact that employers are enabling it and are often taking advantage of the undocumented migrants to begin with. They're the criminals. And it could even be loosely argued, mind you, that somebody who hires an undocumented migrant, knowingly hiring them, is engaging in a form of trafficking. A form. I think there might be a lesser term used for it, but I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what that term would be. But it would be akin to trafficking because you are aiding and abetting an undocumented person outside of their homeland in America and having them do things for you, right? So kidnapping, trafficking, something along those lines, right? At best. And if you are in addition blackmailing that migrant that is undocumented when threatening them with deportation, that's the crime. Like, that's an additional crime, right? So you got the kidnapping and trafficking, more or less, right? And then you have blackmail, literal blackmail, and there's got to be a different, more legal term, like threatening, intimidation. I don't know. I really don't know the legal term. But by holding an undocumented migrant here against their will and forcing them to do work for you for significantly less, or else you're going to report them, that all of those things are criminal. That's at least 3 felony charges right there. 3 per migrant. So the employers should be getting charged with 3 counts of felony convictions that apply to their circumstance, times however many undocumented migrants there are, and then everybody in leadership needs to be equally charged. Like, every single company along the border should pretty much be shut down for crimes against humanity if we're that worried about illegal immigration. Which goes to show that we're not worried about it. We are just being racist and xenophobic about it and using terror to subjugate and oppress a vulnerable minority in the United States and then sending them to concentration camps for profit. Now, I don't know if we have a video on this. So let me check real quick. Okay. I guess there aren't credible videos out yet. I mean, I'm sure there's videos about it, but there is evidence, growing evidence, that there are concentration camps in America with incinerators on their compound. And yes, I am talking about those kinds of incinerators. Incinerators to hide and destroy bodies. We have literal death camps in America. Even without the incinerators, there's still death camps because, again, we are over housing the migrants in rooms that are not fit for anybody, let alone the numbers that are being put in there. The denial of medicine, the denial of sanitation products and opportunities, the fact that, children are being locked away, human rights violations, pregnant women being forced into miscarriage because they're not being given adequate medical treatment or food or anything, right? There is any number of definitive things happening in these detention centers that would qualify them as death camps. But the fact that incinerators are being, verified, I think is the word we're looking for here, makes that infinitely worse. Okay, so hold on. Okay, well, that's a Facebook post. DHS? Okay, so is that what it is? Is it hoaxes? But see, it wasn't just Alligator Alcatraz. That, in U.S. deportation camps in Texas, I believe, is where it was. Well, it's not like you can believe DHS. Okay, here we go. Toxic waste. So... the area where tents will be constructed is directly over a former firing agent adjacent to a closed but uncapped landfill. Exposure to toxic chemicals from these sites can cause all these problems. The bases could also have remnants of whatever that is, PFAS, stemming from foams used to douse fires during training. Detaining migrant families in hastily constructed tents is ill-conceived and dangerous exposure. Okay. So it could be that being blown out of proportion. But I was under the impression that these were some of the new ones that were being discussed. Well, according to my research just now, cursory over Google, which we could just go to DuckDuckGo. Let's see. So this would be Bloomberg, which is considered a source. But I guess they're not going to use the word incinerator in here, are they? That's okay. You know what? I'm happy to chalk that up to, what you call it? That it is, currently a rumor. But the fact that these rumors are, circulating and that they're talking about these places happening in Texas and I want to say Arizona, and that they're looking for new warehouses to add, to their repertoire too. I'm just saying it's very plausible, especially since these centers refuse to allow news agencies or even congresspeople to actually view the facilities, which is one of the many reasons why I'm running for office in the first place, is to actually physically go there, going live, and recording what it is I see as I see it. Now, that being said, I hope to God that there aren't incinerators at any of the concentration camps, right? Because being concentration camps is bad enough. But I'm just getting to the point where, like, with what's happening currently in Minneapolis and the fact that ICE is still in California, still in Chicago, ramping up in Pennsylvania, ramping up in Maine and Maryland, ramping up in Ohio, although they didn't actually deploy in Springfield, thank God, doesn't actually change the fact that they are still actively getting hundreds or thousands of migrants and trafficking them, right? Kidnapping them off the streets and trafficking them across the country to God knows where in the most horrific conditions. Universally, the conditions have been decried as abysmal and inhumane. So, again, that's more than enough for me to even loosely qualify them as death camps. So, anyway, I went off on a tangent. I apologize. Oh, our favorite Democrat, Hillary Clinton, folks. Can this, honestly, I'm probably going to get another text message from a Is this Sam Ronan? Okay. Yes. Are you from DHS again? No, I'm from the Clinton camp. How dare you disrespect Hillary Clinton? Boss babe girl, bitch boss, number one. But seriously, why is Hillary Clinton why can she just not leave the public eye? She's never going to be president. Nobody will vote her. Nobody trusts her. She's being depositioned for the Epstein files. I'm just saying, like, nobody respects or cares about her anymore. So why is she even remotely hanging on to relevance? It's like the media wants to prop up these, I don't even know what. Like, what is she being propped up for? As a contrast to Trump's fascism? As if she wasn't going to do things that were similar, but just do them behind the scenes? Like, I don't know. Right, she is the reason why Trump is president. Because of the Pied Piper strategy.
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is accusing the Trump administration of a cover-up over its handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Clinton's are set to testify later this month as part of the House's probe into the convicted sex offender. Hillary Clinton sat down with our partners at BBC News to speak about the investigation.
Get the files out. They are slow-walking it. They are redacting the names of men who are in it. They are stonewalling legitimate requests from members of Congress. That has nothing to do with us. Something is going on. They know it. I know it. If they're going to have me testify, I would prefer to do it in public because I want everybody to see it at the same time. If I have to do it behind closed doors, they're not going to like what I have to say because I have very strong opinions.
You know what? I will give Hillary this. She's sassy. I'll give her that. Go queen. Go boss bitch. Go get it, lady.
About what it is they're hiding and who they are protecting.
CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand joins us from the White House with more on this. Natalie, the former Secretary Clinton there seems to be coming out swinging, not holding anything back. How is the White House responding?
Yeah, President Trump was asked about this interview on Air Force One while returning to Washington, D.C. last night, and he argued that he's been totally exonerated by the release of the files. Take a listen to more of what he had to say.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that...
See, this is the other part that fucking kills me about Trump and the reporting that's happening on Trump. So he's listed in the files more often than God is mentioned in the Bible. Okay? Granted, the Bible isn't 3 million pages, but 38,000 times in the Epstein files, and God isn't even mentioned that many times in the Bible, right? And it's about him, capital H, okay? And he's just getting interviewed by CBS and other news networks, international news networks, and he's just looking in the camera and saying, I'm exonerated. Clearly, I'm not guilty of anything, so I think this is case closed. And it's like, dude, you are the most culpable person in the files. And the fact that you surrounded yourself with sycophants who are willing to go down with the burning ship is the only reason why you're not behind bars or swinging from a noose for treason and capital crimes against children. So, but the fact that he has the audacity to say it, for one, and the fact that the news is just lapping it up like, yeah, thank you for your comment. Like, not pushing it back at all. Like, in what way is you being mentioned 38,000 times in the files exonerating you? That makes you... We actually arrested Epstein for less. The Epstein. From the Epstein files. Like... Okay.
And find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated.
Now, recall that in some of the recently released files, the former police chief of Palm Beach, in an interview with the FBI, said that Trump called him in 2006 and essentially said, reportedly said, thank goodness you're stopping Epstein, and also suggesting that everyone knew about Epstein's activities. The White House also argues that by releasing millions of files, it's committed to transparency and has done more for the victims and survivors than previous administrations. But as we've been discussing, Errol, and reporting, a number of survivors and lawmakers still aren't satisfied, saying that many...
Hold on. Did this bitch... Did she... I'm sorry. Let me hear that again.
That they'd find it.
Not you.
Now, recall that in some of the recently released files, the former police chief of Palm Beach, in an interview with the FBI, said that Trump called him in 2006.
So this bitch is actually on the news, covering for him, on his behalf, trying to create plausible deniability that actually gives Trump credibility that he is exonerated by bringing up that the Federal Bureau investigator said that Trump called him when it was clear. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Essentially said, reportedly said, thank goodness you're stopping Epstein, and also suggesting that everyone knew about Epstein's activities. The White House also argues that by releasing...
Is she seriously? Like, did she just get paid off by Trump? Like... Oh my God. Like, people are... Okay. Whoops. Sorry. People are all, we need to guillotine the rich. We need to hang pedophiles. We're missing a huge, huge group of people by saying the rich and just the pedophiles. I don't know. How about the protectors? The enablers? The ones that are actually doing PR work on their behalf. What do we do about them? Because quite frankly, they have to go too. She is actively, this lady right here is actively trying to argue on national television that there is plausible deniability for Trump's guilt. Despite the overwhelming evidence of the fact that 12 countries are using the little bit of leaks that have came out to literally indict former prime ministers of their countries. So the emails and the videos and the pictures that are redacted, and with all the redactions of the emails and so on and so forth, is good enough evidence for 12 countries to start going after people with a hammer. But, oh, plausible deniability here in the United States? Are you fucking kidding me? She's a part of it. This horrible human being is aiding and abetting the greatest, most atrocious criminals and the ringleader that's left after all's said and done with the cover-up. Outstanding. Epstein was mentioned a lot in the Trump files. I like that. How did he stop him? By getting him a sweetheart deal? Right, it was a sweetheart deal. And then, right, even royalty. Kings! Ordained by God. The divine right of kings. Kings! Well, former princes. Andrew, formerly known as Prince. Even they are getting consequences. Batshit. All right,
we begin today's show.
Let's do some. Well, it's not good news because Reverend Jesse Jackson died, so that's not good news. But his legacy is good. Something also I wanted to point out, like, I didn't recognize, like, I knew who Jesse Jackson was, obviously, a civil rights leader extraordinaire, but I didn't have, like, a picture of him, right? When you think of Martin Luther King Jr., you kind of his face pops up, right? I didn't have one. I thought it was Will Smith at first, doing like a period piece rendition of Reverend Jesse Jackson, but Will Smith just happens to look like a younger Reverend Jesse Jackson. So, there is that.
Looking at the life and legacy of the towering civil rights icon, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He died earlier today at the age of 84. In the 1960s, Jackson worked closely with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Jackson was with King when King was assassinated in Memphis on April 4th, 1968, at the Lorraine Motel.
Now, I get that in this picture, maybe it's not that much Will Smith, maybe closer to Carlton. But in the picture that they have here as the video icon, this one right here, I guess you'd have to zoom in maybe. Do you see it better now? I mean, that kind of looks like Will Smith. Like, at quick glance, right? So, anyway, we'll go back to our regularly scheduled programming.
Jackson later moved to Chicago, where he founded Operation PUSH, People United to Serve Humanity. He also founded the National Rainbow Coalition. In 1984 and 1988, Jackson ran two groundbreaking presidential campaigns. In 1988, he received about 7 million votes. As a presidential candidate, he pushed for cutting the Pentagon budget while increasing domestic spending on education, housing, and health care.
Jackson was honestly, as a third-party candidate, he blows the Green Party, the what's the other one? They're usually yellow. Why can't I think of it? They always think that they're very neutral, but they're not. They're like very right-wing and creepy at that. Why can't I think of it? What's the only other third party in America? Dang it. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm drawing a blank. Libertarian. Yes, thank you. So, if I don't even think the Libertarians and Green Party combined got 6 million votes in any of the past, like, 10 presidential elections. So actually, let's see. Okay. DuckDuckGo is not giving us better search results, let me tell you. And this one isn't saying how many votes he got. Go figure. But if it's 6 million, I mean, because even Jill Stein last year barely got 600,000. So, like, it just... Anywho, I guess we're going to go back to Google because that's not giving good results. But...
also involved in international campaigns, from the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa to supporting Palestinian self-determination. The Reverend Jackson was hospitalized in November for treatment of a rare and particularly severe neurodegenerative condition, progressive supranuclear palsy, PS.
Damn, that fucking sucks. But, you know, being an OG supporter of Palestine, like, that's friggin' awesome, right? And again, Che Guevara, Jesse Jackson, I'm pretty sure Martin Luther King even said stuff about Palestine. Like, all of these civil rights leaders, like the historic ones, they have literally been about the liberation of Palestine since the 60s, since these movements began. And it just, like, teetered off in the 90s and early thousands because I use myself as an example because even when I entered into activism, which was in the late 20-teens, I knew nothing about Palestine or Israel, right? It had sufficiently fallen off mainstream discourse or even political discourse to the point where the only thing that was talked about, if anything, was the two-state solution. But in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, Palestine was right up there with Black liberation, with Latin liberation. Like, it's truly depressing and heartbreaking to know that the suppression of Palestinian autonomy and survivability and statehood and and sovereignty was squashed in the 21st century. And now they're finally being heard again. So at least there's that.
SP. In a statement, Reverend Jackson's family said, quote, "Our father was a servant leader, not only to our family, but to the oppressed, the voiceless, and the overlooked around the world. His unwavering belief in justice, equality, and love uplifted millions, and we ask you to honor his memory by continuing the fight for the values he lived by," they said. This is a clip of Reverend Jesse Jackson speaking at the 1988 Democratic National Convention.
When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you are qualified. And you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
That's
How the hell did he not get the nomination? Like, are you kidding me? Who was the Democratic candidate in '88? Al Gore? Al Gore ran back in '88? So what, was Al Gore Jill Stein before Jill Stein was Jill Stein? Because, like, if he ran in '88, did he run in '92 and '96 against Clinton? Because Al Gore ran against Bush in 2000. So, damn. That's something, not gonna lie. So Michael Dukakis ended up getting the Democratic nominee. But why does that name sound so familiar? Because, let's see. Dukakis. Epstein? Michael Dukakis. I thought he was something with Michael Dukakis and Epstein. No? Okay. Well, that's interesting because now that we've talked about Jesse Jackson and now we're talking about Michael Dukakis, it's giving us the 1988 debate. Okay. I don't know why I thought Dukakis was being mentioned with Epstein, but either which way, you know what? Now I'm just curious. The debate answer that ruined Michael Dukakis. First of all,
it could be frustrating to some who.
I'm really curious to see how well of a speaker he is, because going up against an actual civil rights leader who marched with MLK, a living legend, right? The Civil Rights Act passed in 1968. This was 20 years later. The people voting, especially liberals voting, would absolutely have been alive during this time of the civil rights movement. And here is a civil rights icon running for president in the Democratic primary? And who's this fucking white guy?
Think, how can a debate turn on that?
Were raped and murdered.
Technocrat.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
Some debate moments are less about the substance and more about the passion or lack thereof in an answer, and nothing to me jumps out.
First of all, that is a fucked up question. If your wife was murdered, would you prefer an irrevocable death penalty? Bruh, this is a presidential debate. What the fuck kind of question is that? Obviously, the answer is I would like to pull the trigger my damn self as a firing squad, okay? We don't need the other 5 members. I'll bring my Glock. I'll take care of this mafia style. I'll put him on his knees, put the pistol in his mouth, and I will pull the trigger until I empty every single clip on my person. And then, I will stop seeing as much red. But that is a very awkward question to be asking anybody for a presidential debate. If the question is, do you support the death penalty? Ask that. But what a weird way to phrase that.
More than what happened with Governor Michael Dukakis in '88.
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life. I don't see any evidence that it's a deterrent, and I think there are better and more effective ways to deal with violent crime. We've done so in my own state, and it's one of the reasons why we have had the biggest drop in crime of any industrial state in America, why we have the lowest murder rate of any industrial state in America.
Governor Dukakis.
You know what? That's a great answer, though. I'll give him that. I still don't know why that guy got the nomination instead of Reverend Jackson. Are you shitting me? This is a cookie cutter white guy versus civil rights icon. Whatever. Democrats shooting themselves in the foot since forever.
Reverend Jesse Jackson speaking at the Democratic National Convention in 1988 when he ran for president for the second time. Jesse Jackson was born in Greenville, South Carolina, October 8th, 1940.
Like, okay, can you blame me for thinking that might have been Michael Jackson? Or not Michael Jackson, Will Smith. What? Y'all, I might need caffeine. My brain is, whoa. Okay.
41. As a college student in North Carolina, Jackson became involved in the civil rights movement. By the mid-'60s, he was a close aide to Martin Luther King Jr. and became national director of Operation Breadbasket, a campaign run by the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Over the past 30 years, the Reverend Jesse Jackson was a regular guest on Democracy Now! In 2011, I spoke with him shortly.
Really? You got the grainiest possible picture you could find of you and Jesse Jackson? 2011, come on. We had better cameras. We had the list up there. We definitely had 1080p cell phone, smartphone cameras.
Shortly after the unveiling of the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington, D.C.
I think we would do well to use the statue as an occasion to deal with his unfinished business. He was shot down, assassinated at age 39. His last agenda items included a poor people's campaign, the quest to end the war in Vietnam and stop the radical escalation of capital in the hands of the very wealthy. And today, here we are with too few people with too much wealth subsidized by the government, too many unnecessary wars, and too many people in poverty. So in some sense, this memorial gives us a rallying point to keep dealing with his unfinished business. We bail out the banks without link to lending and reinvestment, for example. The Bush tax cut extension is more money than all of the state budget deficits combined. So clearly, Wall Street has made out big time, but the poor are expanding, and we're losing jobs in mass, and we must, in fact, turn it around. He died a very...
This man, right here, this guy, Reverend Jesse Jackson, could have been our first black president in 1988. And you know what he wouldn't have been? A fucking sellout. You know what he wouldn't have been? A corporate fucking stooge. You know what he would not have been? Probably alive. He probably would have gotten assassinated, to be honest. I mean, he was pro-Palestine, pro-liberation, pro-worker. I mean, that's what gets a lot of people got, right? But here's the thing. In 2011, 23 years later, am I doing the math right? No, 33 years later. No. Yes, 23 years later. Am I dumb? Can I not math anymore? Listen, guys. I am not at my best today. I'm gonna admit that one. All right. Point being, this man has stood on business. At this point in time, closing in on 40 years? Like 40 something years, 40 plus years. He stood on business. And he could have been our president in 88. And actually had a significant voter turnout. Like, actually got support. Talk about getting robbed. And I, you know, I'm glad we did get a black president. But it's just like saying, well, we could have had our first woman president with Hillary Clinton. I'm sure there were better women to run for the office at any other point in time in history, right? Had we gotten Kamala or had we gotten Hillary, yay, woman president, woo, glass ceiling shattered. But we wouldn't have had a woman president of substance. And what we got with Obama was imperialism that went down really smooth. Reverend Jackson, on the other hand, would have been a black leader who happened to be president of the United States. Like, that would have been infinitely better. Shirley Chisholm? I don't know how to pronounce that. Why would you give me a hard word to pronounce when I'm already struggling with the King's English and basic math? Oh. She ran for president in the... Wow. She was the first black woman to be elected to the U.S. Congress in 1968 and served 7 terms until 83. So, is it going to say... Maybe it would say... And in 1972, she became the first black candidate for a major party nomination of the President of the United States and the first woman to run for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination. So, I'm assuming that's going to be... All right, here we go. Chisholm became the first African American to run for a major party's nomination, making her also the first woman ever to run for the presidential nomination. And Margaret Chase having ran for the Republican. Her campaign was underfunded, spending only $300,000 in 1972, which is still pretty significant. The party establishment ignored her, and her black male colleagues provided little support. Wow. When I ran for Congress and president, I met more discrimination as a woman than for being black, which, I mean, and that's the Democratic Party, no less. Right up here. That's, well, to your point, though, right, Anna? We could have had, again, another trendsetter. And I think she was also, did that not just say she was also a civil rights leader type deal? I guess it didn't. Okay, so she wasn't quite an activist. Okay, I thought it did mention that. But still, so she was one of the pioneer black women in politics. Like, that's still ridiculously impressive, right? So not only could we have had our first black president, we could have had our first female president as well. And we could have killed two birds with one stone, our first black and female president. Like, and it just goes to show how much different and or better would our country have been if we had Shirley as Madam President in 1972, right? Or Mr. Jackson as president in 1988. How much different would our history have been had those two not only gotten the nomination, but then actually won their elections? It just goes to show, like, America has chosen to be elitist, capitalist, fascist, for most of its history. We could even argue FDR had a bit of issues there, but as far as presidents go, FDR was probably the only president that was on the left of the Overton window. And that's still giving a stretch. It's still a stretch to say that, right? Eisenhower and FDR had very similar policies and platforms. And maybe I just have a soft spot for Eisenhower. I don't know. But aside from those two presidents, not even JFK was that left-leaning, right? LBJ, definitely not, right? Jimmy Carter, also not. Granted, he wasn't as fascist as everybody else, but he wasn't exactly left-leaning. He was kind of getting pushed around and then undercut by Reagan. So there's really very little example in U.S. history to suggest that we've ever had progressive leadership at the helm. So imagine if, at the turning point of acceptance and tolerance and civil rights and this, that, and the other, if we had, quote-unquote, back-to-back Shirley and Jackson. Just throwing that out there. That could have been an infinitely better history. All right. We are an hour and 14 minutes into this sucker. I guess speaking of black presidents. Womp.
Not since fictional alien invaders did this to the White House in the blockbuster Independence Day has a U.S. president's views on extraterrestrial life drawn as much attention as Barack Obama's did this weekend when he was asked on a podcast, "Are aliens real?"
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States.
That answer quickly generating 20...
So wait a second. This headline says he's seen no evidence of aliens, but his literal answer was yes.
Barack Obama's did this weekend when he was asked on a podcast, "Are aliens real?"
They're real, but I haven't seen them. And
he literally said, "They're real, but I haven't seen them." Here's the kicker. In 2018, which ironically was during Trump's first administration, the Department of Defense literally declassified a bunch of unidentified flying object, UFO, and I think UXOs, video footage from naval aircraft and Air Force training craft that saw things like zooming through our atmosphere and through our skies. And then I think there was a docu-series on Netflix that talked about alien abductions and so on and so forth. So, like, there's been a lot of declassification around it where people are now allowed to finally talk about it. And now we have a former president, bastard as he may be, freely admitting, yeah, they're real, but I didn't get to see any evidence about it. So it's like, no, here's the thing. Good as pie. And yes, thank you for the shout out. But yes, I 100%, listen, I want to be a space cowboy. I want to be traveling on the Millennium Falcon, going 13 parsecs to the whatever, flying through nebulae and past dark holes and the whole thing, right? Like, I want to be a space cowboy traveling through the stars, right? I want to be Captain James Tiberius Kirk or Spock, okay? 100%. I even created a game that correlates to the alien conspiracy and the fact that the gods are real and they were aliens that ascended, right? Like, I did all that. Look, these are all aliens. Look, that's the blue. It's the Saiyans, right? That's people. And this is like a very scary demon lady, right? Aliens with wings. And then we got more critter. Look, and then we got the real critter aliens. Look at that scary looking critter, right? The Dune. And then like the winged critters that are gonna kill you. And then we got Cthulhu, right? And then that scary shit, right? Here's the thing. I absolutely believe aliens are real. That being said, I mean, it's like we're getting teased but told the truth. Just like with the Epstein files. We're being teased that, yes, everybody with power and influence is a bastard and they're on this list, but there's no follow through in the United States of America. Like, can we see justice in America? So, but keeping it on the aliens, because I really miss our Alien Conspiracy Fridays, but we just don't have the time to be doing any more streams during the week than we do now. Here we go. As your next president, I vow to answer the question once and for all: are we alone? And more so, do we have evidence of it? Obviously, right? Because I'm still gonna say that I believe that we are, that there is alien life out there, right? Statistically, I mean, come on, we're the only sentient life in the entire cosmos. The entire 93 billion light year span of our universe, which itself might be one black hole that is a part of an even larger universe. Really? Suffice to say. Back to our imperialist in chief.
And they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States.
That answer quickly generating 26 million views online and lots of follow-up questions.
Is this something that we should be concerned about?
Back in 2007, candidate Obama sounded far less certain about life beyond Earth.
I don't know, and I don't presume to know.
What was the first question?
You know, at least we used to have fun presidential debates, right? Do you believe aliens are real? If your wife was murdered in front of you, would you approve the death penalty? Like, times be a-changin', don't they? Now it's like, hey, will you swear allegiance to Israel in their pursuit of global genocide, or will you be a cuck and refuse to support our greatest ally in the Middle East? It's like, are you what? Why are we asking these questions? Anyway.
You wanted answered when you became president?
Where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens?
But the former president, who has long declared himself a fan of Star Trek's highly
Are they invading me right now?
logical alien Spock, quickly clarifying, I saw no evidence during my presidency that extraterrestrials have made contact with us. Really? So the truth, it seems, may still be out there, but Barack Obama, just like the rest of us, doesn't know it for sure. Really.
And Garrett Haake joins us tonight from the White House. So, Garrett, we got a sense of what the former president had to say about aliens. But what about President Trump? Has he sort of dabbled in these UFO waters?
He's dabbled and he's been asked about it repeatedly, Tom, over the years. And this is another issue on which these two presidents disagree. President Trump, as recently as during the campaign, was asked about UFOs and aliens. He said he's seen lots of evidence, but he himself is not a believer. And for what it's worth, there is actually pretty good polling on this, Tom. But 65% of Americans say they believe in some capacity that we are not alone out there.
Well, at least 65% of Americans are at least statistically open-minded. He said that he was a Star Wars fan. Obama lies. No, he is a Star Wars fan. But instead of rooting for the rebellion and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, he's rooting for the Empire. Like, I joke about being Darth Vader, right? And actually, hey, it's been a while since I got to use this, huh? Right? Oh, you can't even tell that it's red. Oh. Oh, you can tell a little bit now. But suffice to say, he's Palpatine, and that's the main difference there. Alrighty. So, the prop instead of my other prop, my Call of Duty prop. All right. And now we're heading back into fascism after a
President Trump is looking to leave a big mark on Washington.
We're considering an arc that's like the...
Yeah, no, I'm skipping this. He wants to build more Roman monuments to himself in D.C. and put his name on more things in D.C. that he has no business. And that's just pretty much, we're going to stop there. So we're going to go to something even worse.
It's a shooting at a high school hockey game in Rhode Island, leaving at least 3 people dead, including the suspect, and 3 others hurt, according to an update we just got from law enforcement there. I want to bring in Emily Ikeda, who's been on this for us. I know we're hearing now from the Pawtucket police chief. What is she saying?
Yeah, so terrifying moments unfolding in the middle of a high school hockey game. It apparently was senior night, so this is a packed arena in Pawtucket, as you had mentioned, which is north of Providence in Rhode Island, when a suspect had opened fire, killing 2 and injuring 3 others. The police saying that those 3 people were shot. They are in critical condition in the hospital. You see that massive police presence that's unfolded outside of the arena from all levels. We know the FBI is on the ground, the ATF is on the ground. At this point, police say in the initial investigation, this appears to be a family dispute. But we don't know who.
Why are families murdering each other now? We have the guy in Texas who murdered his wife and daughter because they got into a spat over Trump. And I don't even think the guy got charged with murder. And now we're at a hockey game where there's 3 dead over a high school hockey game. Also, why are there so many alphabet agencies showing up after a school shooting? Obviously, the thing already happened. It's over. Why the fuck are you there? The Texas guy was not charged, right? Okay, outstanding, right? So it just goes to show, like, we are literally slowly devolving into madness and chaos. Well, the chaos, not so much. We're already in the chaos, but the madness. Like, I don't know what's causing people. Like, first of all, why did you have a gun? It's Rhode Island, not Texas, where everybody has a gun no matter where they go. This is Rhode Island. So you probably weren't supposed to have a gun on school property to begin with. And then you're shooting your family over a hockey game.
Who exactly was involved? They haven't released ages. They say it appears, they believe that everyone involved was adults. They haven't even given genders or exactly where the gunfire had rang out. But when those shots fired, there were people even on the ice. So you can imagine the chaos that had unfolded. We heard from one person who lives down the street, who frequently attends sporting events, wasn't at this sporting event, but here's what he had to say. Take a listen.
You hear about an event that happened very similar 2 months ago at Brown. It's so shocking, you know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so a close-knit community just rattled by this terrifying incident just weeks after that Brown University shooting 5 miles south of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And the investigation...
What the fuck? Like, did we even cover the Brown shooting? Because I have no idea. Like, that's news to me. And it just goes, like, 5 miles down the street a couple weeks ago, there was yet another shooting in the same town. We did cover it. Okay, my brain is fried. Okay, I'm going to bed as soon as we're done streaming because we need my neurons to fire again. But like this is crazy. School shootings rarely even make it in the news nowadays, and we're having them back to back in the same city now. Like what the actual fuck is going on? I mean, I know what's going on. We know what's going on, right? Fascism, pedophiles, right-wing extremism just generally, and just apparently people having way too much access to guns. That isn't to say that I'm advocating take away your guns, but obviously people aren't handling guns responsibly and they're not being held accountable for that. Again, how did they bring a gun to a high school sporting event? Like, I guess we don't expect to and that's the other problem, right? Why would you even think to bring a gun to a sporting event? Like, we shouldn't need metal detectors and police or security checking everybody to make sure they're not armed. Like, you should just not be armed at a sporting event. And why would it get so heated to the point where you murder 3 people? Or 3 people at least end up dead? Like, bruh, it is a high school hockey game. It's not that serious. And guess what? Even if it's the Olympics and your team loses, your sport, it's not that serious. Chill the fuck out. Speaking of yet another school shooting.
Well, right now, the trial of a Georgia father who is accused of giving his son access to a gun used in a school shooting is currently underway. Colin Gray, pictured there on your screen, has pleaded not guilty to nearly 30 charges, including second-degree murder. Prosecutors are seeking to hold him accountable for allegedly allowing his son to possess a weapon despite prior warnings.
The defendant, 7 months after he was told by Jackson County Sheriff's Office of possible school shooter threats and being asked to restrict Colt's access to guns, the defendant buys and gives 13-year-old Colt that Sig Sauer M400 as his Christmas present.
This case stems from the
Well, that's even worse. So this kid was genuinely considered a threat. The father was notified, like, hey, your kid is a credible threat and danger to the public. Do not let him near firearms. And what does this piece of shit do? Give his kid a gun anyway, and sure enough, firearms. Now, going back. Okay. The school told the parent that the child was an active shooter threat to the school. And that doesn't immediately result in investigations against the parent or addressing the circumstances at the school that caused this kid to become an active shooter threat, according to the school? Like, what the fuck are we doing as a country? Okay, fine. You're afraid they're going to come and take away your guns. Well, Trump already said, give up your guns anyway, because you're not supposed to have them anyways. Whatever. So, that notwithstanding, if schools are notifying parents that their children pose a danger to classmates, why is that student allowed to go to class? Why aren't they immediately placed in long-term therapy? Like, and then why aren't the parents investigated for child abuse or neglect? Like, there are so many steps between bad parenting and kids committing active shooting crimes at their school. So many steps between that. And if you're somewhere in the middle, like, hey, your kid's very likely to murder people, why does that not immediately result in investigations against the parent and massive mental health intervention on the kid? Like, what are we fucking doing? This is literally one of the most preventable tragedies that I have ever fucking heard of. The school was aware. Okay.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Gabe Gutierrez in Washington, and we begin with the search for Nancy Guthrie, the mother of our friend and colleague Savannah Guthrie. It's now been more than 2 weeks since her disappearance, and moments ago, we just got a new statement from the Pima County Sheriff saying that the Guthrie family, including all siblings and spouses, have been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The sheriff goes on to say that the family are victims, and to suggest otherwise is not only wrong, but cruel. This all comes after the Guthrie family is saying it is not giving up hope. Savannah last night posting this video on social media, pleading for answers.
I wanted to come on, and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and...
So, okay. I get it, that this is a kidnapping, and it's scary, and it's to silence her from talking about Epstein and the victims and all that, but, like... Wasn't there a suspect? What's the FBI or the police or the whatever doing with this suspect? Because they had the person of interest. We covered that last week. And if they were kidnappers demanding ransoms and whatever, where's the proof of life and the follow-up demands? Like, oh, great, the suspect was released on top of that. Outstanding. I mean, this screams of, like, kidnapping to silence, you know, a whistleblower's, for lack of a better word, but it's like they're trying to turn this into something else, and if it were a genuine kidnapping that wanted a ransom, these kidnappers would have been sending fingers or toes or whatever else, demanding ransom, or else we will kill this lady. So... this just screams cover-up, or, again, blackmail, or something along those lines to silence Savannah. No. Yes, Savannah, sorry. Speaking of... well, no, I guess that would be different. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, I hope that Nancy Guthrie is fine. I truly hope she's alive. I truly hope she is well. I truly hope she is released and found soon, right? I 100% want that to happen. But I don't buy that this is a genuine kidnapping for money. This is a kidnapping as a ongoing threat to silence Savannah. If you talk about the Epstein files and the victims, we will kill your mother. Probably most making an example out of Savannah so that other journalists are afraid, which is crazy because it's not like there's an abundance of journalists who aren't capitulating to this administration to begin with. So, speaking of journalists, is
former CNN anchor turned independent journalist Don Lemon.
Oh, he is independent. Okay. Huh. What's with the internet?
Pleaded not guilty to federal charges in a Minnesota courtroom.
Lemon is one of 9 people charged in connection with a protest at a St. Paul church last month. The organizers said a pastor at that church was also a top local ICE official. Lemon has said he was covering the demonstration as a journalist and is not affiliated with the protesters. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa's following this one for us and joins us. Maggie, take us through what happened in court.
Well, here's the thing. Don Lemon pleads not guilty in Minnesota church protest case. Okay, cool. Not guilty for protesting, which is a First Amendment protected right. But also not guilty because he's a journalist, which, surprise, is also a First Amendment right. And freedom of religion, as well as expression, is a First Amendment right. They didn't go in there and denounce Christianity. They went in there and said, that man is an ICE agent and terrorizing our city, which justified protest. You're being tapped. That's why the internet is slow. Yeah, don't joke, because it might be true. I guess I'm gonna have to stop searching for big booty goth Latinas, or else I'm gonna.
Short time ago, and what's next for Don Lemon's case?
Yeah, guys, this is really striking. We expected this arraignment to go forward pretty quickly, and we expected Lemon to enter the plea that he did, which was not guilty. But his defense attorneys also got up and told the judge that they have a number of motions they plan to file, one of which tied to discovery. In this case, they said, quote, we have serious concerns, this is just moments ago, about the application of these statutes to our client, claiming their words that Don Lemon was trapped in Los Angeles when he was arrested here just a couple of weeks ago in the wake of this church protest. And they said that when he was arrested in L.A., which was a couple of weeks after the protest, that his phone was taken, and they were told the phone was being shipped to Minneapolis. His attorney's saying today, we still don't know where his phone is. Then a federal prosecutor got up and said, well, actually, we have the phone in DHS custody. We have a warrant to search it, and that search is not yet complete. So that was one kind of detail that his...
Okay, so you have a warrant to search somebody's phone because you charged them with whatever bullshit charge you gave them when they were actually exercising. This is obviously a gross abuse of power. Now, am I saying all this because it's Don Lemon and I'm a Don Lemon fan? No. In fact, I have no idea who this guy is. If you had posted 15 pictures of men, just black, white, Hispanic, Arabic, doesn't matter, Asian, doesn't matter, and said pick which one was Don Lemon, I would not have known. And if you had even made it easier and just picked 15 black people, would not have known which one that was. And even if you had put a picture of Don Lemon and then these are his news articles that he's done, wouldn't have recognized any of them either, okay? It's the principle that he is being arrested and charged and terrorized and constantly kicked around by DHS for exercising his rights. And that DHS is abusing their power and authority, which by default is already being abused, to harass people into compliance or submission, illegally going through their phones, among other things. Also, if the phone is in their custody, what's going to stop them from planting evidence? That's my point. I would not trust any policing agency, local, state, or federal, at this juncture to actually follow the law and procedure and not plant evidence on people who are dissenting against this administration. I wouldn't. If Columbus police arrested me and took my phone, I wouldn't be shocked if they then charged me with child crimes because they uploaded shit to my phone while it was in their custody, or some other criminal activity, like I was a drug dealer, or I was a terrorist, or I was colluding with Democrats or something to undermine the election or to steal the election. I would not put it past them to have my phone and then put something in there or come up with a bullshit warrant and plant evidence in my home as well. Because that is how corrupt, and again, what they have said in their files, what has been revealed in investigations of whistleblowing natures, that these institutions, regardless of red, regardless of blue, regardless of state, have all engaged in these kinds of activities, and it's only gotten worse under this administration. So,
his defense team zeroed in on. Remember, the backstory of this protest at a St. Paul church was that protesters wanted to alert congregates that one of the pastors there works for ICE. And Lemon, on his live stream, said that he knew about the plans ahead of time for the protest, that he wasn't going to disclose them ahead of time. He went into the church with the protesters, is now being charged with the exact same federal charges that 7 protesters face as well, guys. Federal prosecutors not delineating between protesters and journalists in that crowd at all.
What are the charges? You keep saying 7 federal charges. What are the charges?
And Maggie, we know 4 other people charged in connection to the church protest also appeared in court. Remind us about those cases.
Yeah, so those are 4 of the protesters, 9 people arrested total, 2 of them independent journalists, and Lemon is one of those 2. But we had basically 4 other protesters, including a woman named Nakima Levy-Johnson, who's a local civil rights attorney in Minneapolis. She was featured prominently. There she is. I spoke to her in the days after the church protest, and she told us simply that she and other protesters wanted to, again, let congregants know one of their pastors works for ICE. They claim this was peaceful. They claim they were protected by the First Amendment, as does Lemon. I should point out this court appearance is still going on as we speak. And we do actually have a live feed, if we can pull that up, outside the courtroom of the crowd that's gathered to support Lemon and the protesters. One final headline, guys, to bring it back to Lemon. One of his attorneys that he's hired is an, as of recently, former federal prosecutor who resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota.
I mean, that's one hell of a defense attorney. It's like, hey, I'm a disgruntled federal employee who is sick of the shit of this administration. I got your back, fam. Yes. Also, though, that's Don Lemon having that federal prosecutor on his side. The other 8 people are probably just people who are going to get fucked by whatever these charges are. So, what are the charges? What? Conspiracy to violate civil rights and violating the freedom of access to clinic entrances? What? Oh my God, shut the fuck up. Okay. Yes, that's the whole point. Okay. So this is the conspired or agreed manner and means. Overt acts. I'm not reading all that. Where's the charges? Or is that just the indictment? Oh, here we go. Oh, that's the counts. Okay. Injure, intimidate, and interfere with exercise of right of religious freedom at place of worship. That's reaching, because there was no injury, there was no interference, and there was no intimidation. It was just, hey, well, maybe it was a mild interference. Maybe mild, because you are saying, hey, that guy is ICE. But, I mean, how many of these neo-Nazis and KKK members literally burned black people in their churches? Or destroyed mosques and synagogues? Were they ever charged with this? I doubt it. Okay, so the first count then. What was the first count? Whatever 241 is. Conspiracy against right of religious freedom at place of worship. Okay, so that's the first one. And then the second count is that one. And then the third count. No, just the second count. That's weak. That is extremely fucking weak. And they fucking know it. But they're still going for it to waste everybody's time and possibly actually get the people who can't afford good attorneys to get actually jail time and then be used as an example for others to terrorize and intimidate others from exercising their First Amendment rights. That's crazy. That's... wow. Meanwhile, okay, so DHS is charging Don Lemon and another journalist and 7 protesters with basically violating religious rights for pointing out correctly that that pastor was an ICE agent and therefore guilty of the crimes being committed in Minneapolis. In the same breath, Tennessee Republicans are pushing bills to target the LGBTQ community. So, people can't show up to your church, but you can use your religion against everybody else. Like, are we not seeing Are we not seeing what's happening here? Like, the fact that Tennessee Republicans are pushing discriminatory legislation, which is in gross violation of the 14th Amendment, should immediately cause them to not only resign or force them out of office, but be charged with violation of the 14th Amendment.
In Tennessee are pushing a slew of bills targeting the LGBTQ plus community. Opponents of the bills are calling it a slate of hate.
I can tell you that we are in an emergency situation. I could say that it's a total assault on our rights.
CBS News correspondent Nicole.
That's because it is a total assault on your rights. Listen, I'm running as a Republican. I am a white, believe it or not, straight man supporting, shockingly, I know, other people's rights. Crazy. Crazy. Unheard of. Right? www.samronan.com. Like, share, subscribe to this channel. Okay? It shouldn't matter if the discrimination bill impacts you, right? If it's going against women's autonomy, it shouldn't matter that I'm not a woman. I should be against it just as vehemently as if it was a mandatory vasectomy bill at the age of 18, right? I should be as egregiously against that as I am against women's body autonomy being taken away from them, right? Pro-choice, the right to abortions. Hell, the SAVE Act, disenfranchising 69 million married women because their driver's license and passport isn't going to match their birth certificate. So, the fact that lawmakers who claim that they're conserving anything are going out of their way to undermine the very document that they all swear an oath to protect and defend, no matter what your office is. If it's local, if it's state, if it's federal, you all swear to protect the Constitution of the United States. And what are these asshats doing? Undermining the 14th Amendment. Why? Because they're hateful bastards and they think conservatism means regressivism. And that's not what it's supposed to be. I mean, it's how it's being used, but that's not how it's supposed to be used.
Nicole Valdez joins us from Nashville, Tennessee. Nicole, you're tracking all of this. Help our viewers understand what's inside these bills and where they stand in the legislature today.
Errol, good morning. Well, several of these bills have already received unanimous support from Republicans in the state legislature as they move forward. Still very early on in the legislative process, but a handful of these bills would directly challenge some existing Supreme Court rulings. One of them, in fact, would allow either private citizens or organizations to refuse to recognize same-sex marriages in the state of Tennessee. Another would actually ban the display of pride flags at any state buildings or by any state employees. That, of course, would include public school teachers. So this is really a situation that has received, of course, some backlash from advocates for the LGBT community as well as Democrats who are in the legislature.
Okay, here's the thing. The anti-LGBTQ thing is a Christian, I say that loosely, Christian movement. So the religious beliefs of these Republicans compel them to pass this legislation, right? Whatever. The power of racism and discrimination compels you. I don't understand how LGBTQ rights activists aren't saying, well, it's infringing upon my spiritual beliefs and religious beliefs, which is all men are created equal and that God loves everyone equally. I mean, why aren't they using the same argument in a court of law? It's like, you can't pass laws that infringe upon my religious beliefs just because they don't align with yours. That violates the First Amendment. Like, right, Christo-fascism. But why aren't the courts recognizing, or why aren't LGBTQ or whatever demographic is being directly discriminated against, saying, like, this goes against my religion? I'm sorry, it's against my religion to allow mass agents that don't identify themselves to kidnap and traffic people off the streets. Sorry, it's against my religion. I don't know why that's not being used more often. Because it is being used to justify these atrocities. Just putting that out there.
Legislature as well. Some of them, as you mentioned, calling it that slate of hate. We heard from Nashville Council member Brenda Gadd, who said when legislation tries to erase people, silence is not an option. Certainly a handful of bills here that will continue to keep our eyes on, Errol.
All right, we'll keep watching that.
Oh, my God. Okay. So, in addition to Christian fascism, we have, as if we didn't have enough entertainers trying to run for office now, we have Stephen A. Smith, who I actually do recognize.
Welcome back to Takeout. Thank you for hanging out with us. Stephen
as a sports pundit. So, we have a talk show host, and reality TV stars president now, acting like a dictator. We had a child actor, Reagan, as president. We had, Jay-Z's announcing his presidential bid, and he was a Nazi up until 3 months ago. Or this month, I think. Or, yeah, something along those lines. And now, we have a sports commentator throwing their hat in the ring for president. What's next? The clowns? Like actual red-nosed clowns? May as fucking well. What did I say? Did I not say? Who did I just say? Because I did, in fact, mean Kanye. Jay-Z. I said Jay-Z. Oops. Okay, well, you get the idea. Jay-Z's in enough trouble with the Epstein files. I see. Got it. Well, who knows? Maybe Kanye's in there too, just for funsies. But, yeah, we have entirely too many ridiculous people claiming that they're running for president. Now, do I really think Kanye is serious about running for president? No. Do I really think Stephen Smith is serious about running for president? Also no. But the fact that they're saying it at all and now they're on these podcasts and being taken seriously, while we struggle to be given any platform whatsoever in our district when we're on the fucking ballot, and I've been an activist for 10 fucking years. I guess that was instant karma. My bad. Okay. Let's hear what Sportsman has to say.
A. Smith, a force of nature in sports journalism. He's on ESPN.
A force of nature? Okay. I may not know much about sports ball. I might not. And I freely admit that I do not give a damn. But I've listened to this because in the gym, they're usually playing it, right? So, I have actually heard this man speak. I've actually heard his journalism. And the dude is just loud and opinionated. Like, and all of them are. Like, that's the whole shtick. Whether it's a woman, whether it's a guy, whether they're black, whether they're Asian, whether they're white. The whole point of being on C-SPAN Sports or C-Sports or whatever the channel is that he's on is to argue with each other and make unfounded claims about whatever athlete and sport they're talking about. It's like, I think LeBron James should have gotten on the All-Star game because he's been doing it for the past 20 years, and by golly gee, he's better than Jordan because look at the stats. And then Steven will be like, bullshit! LeBron's been padding his stats for decades. He doesn't have the rings, he doesn't have the talent, he doesn't have his Kobe, and he doesn't have his Scottie Pippen either. So, who's LeBron James anyway? And then somebody else would be like, oh, how could you go there? There isn't a Scottie Pippen or a, who did I just fucking say? Dennis Rodman to support him. So it's like, but that guy who's just loud and obnoxious. And again, Kanye is also just loud and obnoxious, and again, was a self-described Nazi up until a month ago. I didn't do the hand, okay?
ESPN, Sirius XM, as a guest on all variety of shows, eager to tap into his opinionated fame.
Okay. I need somebody, whether it's an intern or you, Anna, I need you to write to The Takeout with Major Garrett and be like, listen here, motherfucker. You pasty-ass white boy with your comb-over and sleeked back gray hair. If you're gonna put some bullshit talk show host from the sports network on your podcast as a contender for the president and not an actual activist, veteran, and person who's been on the ballot multiple times, who is actively engaged in primarying an incumbent, who is a coal lobbyist in a state whose coal industry makes up less than 1% of the entire GDP, you're a piece of shit. So.
Perhaps inevitably has come the tug of another arena, the political one. On CBS Sunday Morning, Smith told Robert Costa he's not, emphasized not, ruling out a presidential bid in 2028.
I'm a fiscal conservative. I can't stand high taxes, but I'm a social liberal in the same breath because I believe in living and let live. I pay attention to the desolate and the disenfranchised. Yes, I like strong borders. That's absolutely true. We never needed open borders, but we don't need it to be completely closed either. We're a gorgeous mosaic.
Sounds like you're getting a stump speech ready.
We had open borders until like 1876 when the Chinese Exclusion Act passed. And I'm pretty sure we still had mostly open borders until like the 1920s or 30s. So, what?
Hey, Steven?
No, there's no stump speech. I can give a speech without a note in front of me.
I want to bring in our political panel. Rena Shaw, Republican strategist, former senior congressional advisor. John.
I get it. They're talking about it. He's not invited. Okay, I see. All right. I take it back, Major Garrett. I ripped your fucking throat out with my teeth, and that was uncalled for. I apologize. That being said, why was Stephen A. Smith on CBS Morning America? So, that's who we need to get a hold of. CBS Morning America. If you're going to let some sports guy be on there and talk about the presidency with no political background whatsoever and not let me, an active candidate with 10 years of politicking under my belt, that's bullshit.
John McCarthy, Democratic strategist, former senior advisor to President Biden. All right, John, let me start with you. In an era of American politics where fame and celebrity carry a kind of cachet that they did not even 15 years ago, is Stephen A. Smith someone we should think about and factor into the possible 2028 conversation?
How the fuck have we fallen so far as a country that that question is actually being asked? Granted, it was asked well. Fame and fortune has been only relevant in the past 5 or 10 years. But it has never been more relevant than it has been now in the past than it was in the past 10, 15 years. So, like, it is pretty nuts that just name recognition can actually get you political capital, because that is literally in 1984. No, I'm sorry, Fahrenheit 451. I don't have that book on me. In Fahrenheit 451, they literally talk about in the opening pages how the president was handsome, or the candidate was handsome, and the other one was better, smarter, but not as attractive and definitely not as well spoken. So we're going to vote for the handsome one. We are at that level of dystopian nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for both political parties here, there's a wide lane open during the nomination contest, and that's for outsiders. Every single election cycle, we keep hearing from voters telling us they don't like politicians. So whether it's him or someone else, I think that one of the widest open lanes to become the next president is probably be someone who's not serving in current office.
When you heard him say to Robert Costa he is a Democrat, did that surprise you?
It didn't. I mean, I hope everyone runs as a Democrat, right? And for the way it looks now, we're going to have 25 people on our debate stage. So, I mean, I think that that's great. I mean, I think in the way that he's been talking about this, he's been able to kind of thread an important needle that I think a lot of candidates can't do right now, and that's that he's pretty disenfranchised with both sides. Yes, he said he'd run as a Democrat, but he was also pretty critical of Trump, and then was pretty critical of Vice President Harris. And you know who else is? The American people. Right. And that's where the voters are. So,
yeah, I think.
Well, it's pretty easy to say that you're going to run as a Democrat when the party has 18% approval rating. But here's the problem with the Democrats that I found out personally. Democrats rig their elections. You know what else they do? They argue in court that they rig their elections. Not only can they rig their elections, but that Democratic voters should not expect their vote to carry any weight whatsoever in those primary elections, which means Democrats argued in court that they are legally allowed to rig primary elections, which directly rigs general elections. Meaning election rigging from top to bottom, from start to finish. Democrats should be disallowed to exist. Now, I don't know if the Republicans argued that in the court. I haven't seen anything about that. And again, we are seeing people getting nominated that arguably traditional conservatives would not have supported. But suffice to say, Democrats are untrustworthy. They are 100% untrustworthy, and that's not going to change over the next 2 years. It's just not.
I think he's a perfect candidate for anyone. I think
really?
I really do, because he knows games, right? And what bigger game is there than politics?
Politics is a game, yeah.
He's got a lot of opinions. He doesn't hide from them. He doesn't apologize. I think that's a big one, too, because, again, who's going to follow Trump that's going to look apologetic?
So
So the thing about not being apologetic, people do respect that, but if you're in the cult, if you're in a room full of cult members and you say that you think Trump is a Nazi fascist, well, they're not going to support you. Found that out at the Madison County Republican meeting.
Meets that nuance threshold of authenticity.
Oh, that's good. Dems rig the primaries and the Republicans rig the general election, meaning Democrats rig the primaries, which is a crime, and then the Republicans are like, nah, we're going to rig the big one that actually matters, which is an even bigger crime. And yes, we did learn that the hard way. Although it was pretty funny. And then, did I share that with you? Oh, hold on. This is funny. Okay, so, you shared it with me in chat, but how long ago was it since you shared that? Was it this one? Crap. Hold on. I'm trying to find the article about me that was written by the guy who tried to get me in that gotcha. Now I'm not finding it. I don't remember. What did he write for? Because you showed me. Oh, hold on. Wait, I think I might have found it. All right, here we go. I think. Okay, so it's called the Buckeye Beacon. Wait. Let's see. Is there a way to share this without all that extra gunk? Nope. Oh, well. Okay. So, found it. This guy, Josh Licklitter, was the one at the Madison County thing who was like, did you run for DNC? And I'm like, yeah. And I actually had the crowd with me. And then it went to, you called Trump a fascist and a Nazi. Do you stand by that? I'm like, yeah, I did. He wrote an article about me from the Buckeye Beacon. This guy is actually a journalist using his platform to smear me and throw me under the bus in public. Oh my goodness. And I didn't do great. I mean, I can't argue that. It is what it is. And he pitched a 3760 county. And let's, like, the article actually exonerates me. Instead of recalibrating quietly in the background, he quickly escalated. In 2017, he ran for chair. He made the argument that Democrats had abandoned rural communities and working class voters. He pitched what he called a 3760 county strategy and positioned himself as an insurgent willing to challenge the party elites, which is literally what I did. That paragraph makes me sound based as fuck. So even though he's trying to smear me, because he used a very unflattering picture of me in the SEO, he dropped out before the vote, but his affiliation was clear. He was not just a Democrat. He aligned so closely with the Dems, he hoped to lead it. That's actually not what happened. I disaligned with the party so much, I hoped to reform it for the better. And then I filed to run for Congress as against Steve Chabot. I ran as a Republican. Literally as a Republican. That shift alone should warrant scrutiny. During the primary, he was openly embraced by groups like the Young Turks, a progressive news and commentary network. I lost that primary. It's true. And shortly after, he had a run-in with the law, which is also true. Guy pulled me over with his gun drawn and was screaming for me to get in the car or on the ground. And then I started filming him, and that's when he started to de-escalate. And by the way, I was never charged. So yeah, there's my unflattering picture. The video circulated, the episode became part of his public record. It sure did. I mean, he found it, right? He remained involved in online politics, hosting progressive live streams, and recently announced a campaign again. Oh, wait, he knows about our live streams? And it's not a progressive live stream, it's my live stream. I don't call it progressive at all. Bro, he linked my live stream? Are you shitting me? What? Is he? Oh, wait, okay, hold on. Now I feel like I owe him an apology. Is Josh trolling me? Like, is he trolling me? Is he smearing me? Or is he secretly supporting me? Because, honestly, if this is the worst Oppo article he could come up with, bruh, he's probably why people have been coming to the live stream. Yeah, no shit. That's fucking oh, wait, hold on. I need to save this. That's just... Okay.
Hey there. It looks like you've got your ad blocker on. Ads help us keep Pandora free and prevent any playback issues with your music. Tap now to disable ad blocker and keep...
The fuck, Pandora? Anyway. So, right. He's probably the reason why we have the live stream, and he actually linked the correct... Like, why would... He's giving me a free platform. If this is supposed to be a smear article, he's going to have to do a little better. Just throwing that out there. And yet again, as a Republican, which kind of proves that I'm sticking to the Republican Party and not the Democrats. At a recent endorsement meeting, Ronan was asked directly why he was if he was the same, and the short answer is yes. And then he explained that as a Democrat after leaving active duty because he wanted to serve and the seat was open. He said he lost egregiously and concluded that Democratic leadership did not care about candidates or constituents. How does that make me look bad? That's why I ran for the DNC chair, because they don't care about candidates or constituents. He then stated that dissatisfaction with Democrats is precisely why he's a Republican today. That explanation sounds like frustration, but his own Facebook comments go further. Didn't you run for chair for you? Now you're running for thing. I believe I very clearly mentioned in that very same DNC chair race that Democrats, if they wanted to govern and regain the trust of Americans, would have to primary Republicans in deep red districts as Republicans just to get a foot in the door. So if I'm doing anything, it's following the argument I made at that stage. That said, I am not fighting behalf on the traitorous Democrats who just crossed the party line to vote for more ICE funding. I'm not a grifter. I'm running for office in the party of the dominant district fighting for the working class. Like, that is, if you were gonna cherry pick and do a gotcha call out screenshot, that's not it. And I literally called the Democrats traitorous. Because they are. Let's be very clear for a second there. You know, I didn't actually read this article. I just saw that it was a smear article about me, and I was like, okay, whatever. But okay. Arguing that party labels are tools, not identities. If Republicans dominate a district, you run as a Republican. If Democrats want influence in red territory, they should compete inside Republican primaries. In his view, that is not opportunism. It is consistent with what he said during his DNC campaign. I mean, yes. Is that not also common sense? Like, hey, you're going to run for office in a Republican-dominated district, but you're going to run independent, Green Party, whatever else. No, you run as a Republican. What? At the same meeting, he was confronted about prior statements comparing Donald Trump to Nazi Germany and accusing Republicans of hatred toward Americans, which is objectively true. He criticized immigration enforcement and alleged serious misconduct by federal agencies and described himself as more of an Eisenhower Republican. He cited high marginal tax rates and President Eisenhower's federal infrastructure expansion as guiding principles, which, again, built the middle class. Post-World War II Reconstructionism. Right, and he didn't mention that he was the one. That's right. That ideological framing stands in tension with the modern Republican platform, which is 100% true. Like, thank you for clarifying that as an Eisenhower Republican, I am against the modern Republican platform, but that doesn't make me any less of a Republican. It just makes me not a psychotic Republican. His campaign website reflects the same tension. So I'm consistent. I'm not grifting. I'm not lying. He has advocated for expansive federal jobs programs, sweeping economic intervention, and strong opposition to increased ICE funding. His own Facebook post called Democrats traitorous for supporting additional ICE funding, a position that places him at odds with many Republican primary voters. That's wild, bro. You basically highlighted my top policy provisions, which are the same policy provisions that were promised in the mandate during Trump's election year, campaign year. These are things people actually care about. Objectively, polling has my side on this. He is anti-Trump, the self-defined president of Antifa. Calls members of ICE murderers and would never vote in line with the Republican caucus. Well, I mean, if the Republican caucus actually supported legislation that wasn't fascist, I would. In any state with serious closed primaries, Ronan wouldn't even be able to vote in the GOP primary, yet he is running in it. What do you mean? If it's a closed primary, that would mean I would just have to register in advance. Dude doesn't even know what a closed primary is. And then you pick a great picture of me. Look at that smile. Look at that tie. What a sharp, handsome fellow that is. Ronan's record now includes a Dem State House, run for DNC chair, a Republican Congress, an arrest, and public rhetoric is sharply critical of Trump and federal immigration policy, which is literally in line with all national polling. A renewed Republican candidacy portrayed as tactical consistency. Republican voters are left with a decision that is less about biography and more about trust. Does Ronan have any ideological evolution Or is he only a candidate who views party affiliation as something to use when it is convenient? What does he even mean by that? Is that something that sounds smart? Because it isn't. Any ideological evolution, by not agreeing with the Trump platform, that is definitively ideological evolution. And also, is he only a candidate who views party affiliation as something to use when it is convenient? That's literally the only reason why people use party affiliation, because it's convenient. What? And the real question, will Ohio's open primary system allow Republican voters actually to select our nominee, or will crossover Dems influence the results? His record is public, his social media comments are public, his non-compliance arrest is public, which, honestly, I'm not going to comply with an officer pointing their gun at me without stating their business, and I don't think any citizen should. His thoughts on Republican candidates and voters are public. True. Voters on May 5th will decide whether his story holds together. And then what?
That just was. My name is Samuel Ronan.
He actually posted the full video of me there as, are you kidding? What?
Running for Congress for the U.S. 15th Congressional District. This is not my first time running for office, but it is.
Oh, he was doing it sneaky.
Here, so
Do you
close
see
to
that?
home.
It's like
I actually grew up in
hiding.
Lancaster, Ohio, and it was funny because it was Steve Stivers who was in that office for most of my life, and I had the desire to.
I do object a little bit because the camera adds 10 pounds. As you can see how pluffy my face is and how big my forehead is, right? In that camera angle. I'm handsome, okay? I'm not that fat, okay? It doesn't talk about your support for the Blackfire cause. That is the real nail in the coffin. The Blackfire cause? Now I'm not certain what you're talking about. Blackfire cause. Blackfire cause. What? From the Game of Thrones? Well, that's why I haven't watched the new series. That's funny. Good job. That you got me there, True Steel. You got me. All right, anyway.
To serve my country and serve in politics on top of that. And then when I went home, after I left active duty, I had to run against Steve Stivers. Who's going to do that, right? So I had to wait a few years, as it were, and thankfully have the opportunity now. So the question is, if I didn't want to compete against Steve Stivers, why do I want to compete against Mike Carey, right? You would think it would be 6 of one, half dozen of another. The difference is, the way I saw Steve Stivers...
Oh, also, I didn't know at this point in time that Mike Carey was a coal lobbyist first and then became a politician. It's not that I didn't do Oppo research on the guy. I did Oppo research on his voting record. I didn't actually do Oppo research on the man himself because I would have brought that up. He's like, listen, Mike Carey is a coal lobbyist and coal makes up less than 1% of the GDP of Ohio, and he somehow made a clear-cut victory to Congress and is now a #1 sycophant of this administration? Bruh. What is he running for? Vote, lick, litter? What? He's running for something? Oh, maybe it's something like a Young Conservatives group. He got quoted by Trump? Sorry. Hold on. So Donald Trump actually... So wait a second. Hold up. Conservative Crusader podcast? Young Republican leader. Was he in the Discord channel that was talking about Nazis and shit? No wonder he got offended that I called Trump, dear leader, a Nazi. He was in the Nazi Discord. Jesus. Anyway, here's the rest of my... I talked about this, but I didn't know that if there was a video or not for it. So now I know there's a video for it.
His candidacy, the way he served Ohio and the United States of America in Congress, his years of military service, is that it was about the people first. Always about the people first. My father, who retired from the Ohio Department of Corrections as the only state bagpiper, actually met with Steve Stivers on multiple occasions, got to work with him on multiple occasions. And the one thing that he always said about Steve Stivers was how much of a real person he was, and he didn't feel like he was talking to a politician or somebody from Washington or somebody with an agenda, just a veteran who was there ready to serve and be a part of whatever service there was, right? And that's what I want to bring to Washington as well. Again, I have no idea what he said. Maybe he said the same things. But for me, I was active duty for 6 years, and I was reserves for 6 years. I did not get to jump out of planes, although I really wish I could have. I was Air Force, so they don't give us that opportunity. That being said, in the military, I focused on helping my unit. I volunteered for Honor Guard. I volunteered for unit deployment. I volunteered for the base level SABC instructor. I helped people at the highest levels that I could reach, and I taught people the things that I could teach, and I made a difference in those areas. I was, I think, the first unit in the Air Force that actually digitized our unit deployment system. I was integral in our first major deployment when I was in Arkansas, and I got to train a room full of 20 doctors who had probably 300 years of experience between them, and some airman snuffy was teaching them about SABC. So I've had some fun experiences. I've been in rooms with people that far, far exceeded my stature, and I came out stronger, and I came out better because of it. So am I the most ideal congressional candidate? Probably not. Am I the most experienced? No. Have I been elected to anything? Also no. Have I raised the most money? Guess what? Also no. But what I do have is consistency with representing my ideals, making a difference in the areas that I am, leading from the front lines, and of course, keeping the ideals of the people near and dear to my heart, which is the one thing that I absolutely think we all agree on when we are in this room together, is that mandate of making lives better. Not just business lives, all lives, whether it's cost of living, access to...
Shit, I threw in an all lives matter in that speech. Damn, that was so subtle too. Oh my God, I can't believe I pulled that off. Man, I'm really good at public speaking, folks.
Healthcare.
And thank you for the follow.
The efficiency of our governments. You know, how many potholes did you drive over to get here, right? How many of your homes have lost their value or gotten more expensive to live in? The cost of groceries, right? Access to things. Our schools, are they at the same level that they were before? Is that really even a state or a national issue? So many things are questioned. So many things are no longer taught or being a part of. And then on top of that, the presence. I believe that both of the judges said that their main thing was to be present in the counties. And that's what I believe too. I make it a point to try and reach as many of these meetings as I can, despite working full time, despite having a day job and needing to drive 2 hours to get down to, Holloway, Ohio? I mean, good Lord, on a work night. So that's the level of commitment I bring. It's the level of expertise, if you will, that I bring. Although we may not have the same levels of in-office experience, we definitely have decades of civilian and military experience. That work ethic, that ethos, and that patriotism that I know each and every single person in this room cares about. So I would definitely enjoy your endorsement and look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
Now, there's 10 minutes on this, right? Because that's the questions and answers. So, all I'm saying is... What were you speaking about? I'm new here. So, granted, we don't necessarily always stream my campaign information. This just so happened to come up because this video is coming from an article that was smearing me because we were talking about how candidates are just coming out of the woodwork who have no basis for being in politics whatsoever. Stephen A. Smith is a sports commentator. Why the fuck is he even talking about running for president, right? So, I am obviously running for U.S. House of Representatives, and this video was about me giving my piece for endorsement, for earning the endorsement of the Madison County Republican Party, right? So that's what I was talking about. I was giving my pitch. Why me? And I had 5 minutes to give it, and guess what? I fucking nailed it. Like, I got this. The next bit of this is where that kid tries to get me caught in gotcha questions. And I mean, we can watch it, but now it's 9:30, so we kind of do need to get through the rest of the video. But I am running for U.S. House of Representatives. I am officially on the ballot, according to the Franklin County Board of Elections. You can vote for me in the Republican primary on Cinco de Mayo. And honestly, please check out the website, www.samronan.com, which probably means I should add that somewhere on here. I need to make these little banners. Maybe I need my name up here, like Sam. I don't know. I need to figure that out. But suffice to say. That's weird as hell. Why would a sports commentator want to be in politics? That's a great question. Why would a sports commentator want to be in politics, let alone the president, right? Like, I could understand maybe they want to give back to the community, so they run for city council or mayor or even state representative or something. But, like, president? What? So you have opinions on baseball and football and basketball. How does that give you any basis for running a country? Well, I have strong opinions. I think we should have a strong border, and I believe social justice is a good thing. Great. How are you going to actually, what's your policy? Like, what are you actually going to do? Who are you going to hold accountable? What do you think is happening that's good, and what do you think that's happening as bad, and how would you change it? Like, anyway. I am not a Republican, but as long as you're not insanity like our current president, go ahead. Well, I mean, that's, right? I'm a populist. That's why they're mad, because I am a populist. I don't subscribe to red or blue or green or yellow. I subscribe to populism, right? Ronanism, as it were. And to me, right, being a Republican or a Democrat is just a label to get on the ballot, because running as an independent is damn near impossible in most states, especially in Ohio. So, I mean, but if we're going to have to call myself a Republican, that's fine. I have no qualms about being a Republican because there were good Republican presidents. Eisenhower being my favorite. Eisenhower is my favorite Republican president. Honestly, I'd argue he is my favorite president, period, end of story. And maybe it's because he was, the general who won the war for the Allies and the United States. Maybe it was because he taxed the rich, or, maybe because he was a badass. I don't know. I can't summarize into one simple soundbite why Eisenhower does it for me, but he does. And so when I call myself a Republican, I call myself an Eisenhower Republican, and I don't feel in any way, form, or fashion that I am lying or misleading anyone, because I believe that. And if I were to call myself a Democrat, I'd call myself an FDR Democrat, because in terms of ideology and policy, FDR and Eisenhower were pretty closely aligned. FDR walked so Eisenhower could run. But Eisenhower didn't turn around and just undo everything FDR did. Eisenhower expanded upon it, as leaders should. So, anywho. MAGA shouldn't even qualify as Republican. They're an entirely separate species. Right. No, they are fascists. Now, granted, the modern Democrats are also fascists, but, I mean, as a party, yeah. I mean, if we weren't in a duopoly system anyway, the Tea Party would have ended up emerging as the preeminent third party, and they would have constantly split the Republican vote. So they're accusing me of what the Tea Party did to the Republicans over the course of 20 years. So, like, it's obviously dumb. But I'll go ahead and share this link. Feel free to view this on your own. This is for being a smear article. This actually did not strike me as oppo. Political consultant, strategist, and commentator. He's the Central Committee, Oak Run Central Committeeman, and the CEO of Excel Political Strategies. Which doesn't have a secure connection. That's not a good look. And what's his Twitter say? Advocate for youth in politics. Isn't this what the OnlyFans girls do? Show my link tree? And we just tried going to the website. Oh, here we go. There it is. Phineas Kelly, Josh Littleader. We should contact them and be like, hey, do you want to help us run for office? Oh, they met with Vivek. Oh, you can't see that. The other kid is on the other side of Vivek there. Services. All right. Develops messaging, graphic design, donation pages, social media, direct mail, grassroots strategy for small district races. Okay. I mean, I don't doubt that. That looks pretty sharp. I'm not gonna lie. That is what I would expect a Republican MAGA conservative to have, right? Stop Bill Gates, you know, the color scheme, and then pro heritage and the green and the nice colors. That's proper marketing. I you know what? Excelpolitical.com. If you guys are in Ohio and you're running as a Republican, a MAGA Republican, check these guys out. They seem to, at the very least, know how to design stuff. And clearly very, very strongly opinionated on their MAGA. But you know what? Here's the thing. Sam, why on earth would you... Oh, you know, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to put that on stream links. Whoops. Sam, why would you plug somebody who wrote a smear article about you? Why not? He's a kid. He's like 22 years old or whatever. And he's very politically active. We want the youth to be politically active. Is he brainwashed? Yes. Poor kid needs a hug or something. I don't know. But honestly, like, good for him. He's an entrepreneur. He's doing good work. Like, those graphics, they were sharp, they were clean, they followed the correct development ideology for, like, marketing materials, especially with modern marketing materials. So, like, good for him. Like, why wouldn't I support the kid? I've seen that Phineas kid somewhere. Honestly, he looked very familiar too. I think he's part of the Turning Point USA shit. I think he is. Because he looked very familiar, and that's the only reason why I could have thought of seeing him. Yeah, the webpage is a little meh. I'll give him that. I'll give you that. The webpage is a little meh, but, you know, their marketing stuff seems to be all right. To be honest, how I got here was I typed autism into filter because I have autism, and I like to find streamers at least the least bit relatable, and now I'm here. Hey! That's why I put it on there. And honestly, there was a point in time where I lost all of my tags, so I'm not even certain that all of the tags that I'm using are the ones that I was using in the past. So I am glad that you guys, you found this and that it is actually working. As intended. Turning Point USA is like a gross out word for me, not gonna lie. I mean, they are everywhere. And that's the thing. TPU, they're doing what the Tea Party did. They are everywhere. They are going to every meeting. They're going to every event. They're making sure to be present and to be speakers and to integrate themselves into anything that's going on in using the leverage of Charlie Kirk's death to get there, which is incredibly smart. Very, very smart, actually. That's how you do grassroots organizing. You take your group and then you force it down everybody's throat until it becomes mainstream, which is, again, why we are actively looking for volunteers. www.samronan.com/volunteer. I bet Josh is part of TPUSA. I believe it too. My mom showed me the video of him getting shot right as it happened. Not pleasant. No, it was not pleasant. And say what you will about Charlie Kirk, a public execution and watching a person die in real life, traumatizing. That's not something anybody should want to watch. But hey, he did lose the gun debate. Handily. All right. We did not get through most of these videos, so let's see if we can. Jesus Christ. The memes are funny. No, the memes are funny.
All right, sexual assaults on airplanes is now on the radar of investigators. It's become a problem for
I do not know what's
travelers
going on
and prompted
with my internet
authorities.
right now. I shouldn't have too many tabs open. But maybe I do.
To talk about a crime that's often underreported. CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarlane details the patterns in this CBS News exclusive.
A CBS News investigation revealed the airline industry and authorities aren't aggressively tracking in-air assaults. Renee Salafra thinks the numbers are critical to passenger safety.
It affected my job. It affected my life. I was scared to travel.
2 years ago, Salafra says an intoxicated stranger sitting on the aisle groped her as she sat in the middle seat on a flight from Chicago to Florida, at first grabbing at her neck.
I crossed my arms on my lap, closed my eyes, and just thinking to myself, we're finally going to land. And that's when he grabbed my breast.
We uncovered the FBI investigated more than 150 similar cases of passengers assaulting other passengers just last year.
It's a small fraction of the millions of air travelers each year, but CBS News found that number is up sharply, and there's fear the cases are widely underreported to authorities.
Well, that's because they're underreported to authorities in the first place, because authorities ignore them, which is why there are, 500,000 or more rape kits that go untested every single fucking year. So yeah, no, this is, and the fact that it's increased sharply since Trump became president, yeah, that's a fucking red flag. Despicable.
Flight attendants are often the ones getting the report.
Sarah Nelson, president of the Flight Attendants Union, says that report then goes to the destination.
Anywhere in that chain, if someone dismisses it as no big deal, there's not the kind of response that's necessary to have accountability.
Our examination found many of the incidents happen on long-distance or international flights. Often
because you're fucking forced to be in one place for 8 hours. And yeah, at night, what are you gonna do? You can't go anywhere. There's literally nowhere else for you to go. Yeah, no, that's fucking disgusting. And right, even in our own chat, we have people who have experienced SA and didn't even bother reporting it. Jesus. Like, I mean, don't feel the need to share, please, because, I mean, I know that's traumatic, but, like, the fact that this is not even 7 steps removed, right? Like, this is in chat right now happening. Like, this, it is so common that the Me Too movement literally included all women. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it hasn't gotten better since. It's only gotten worse because men in patriarchy have only gotten more and more audacious because, again, now we know part of it was the Epstein conspiracy and pushing it in media and pushing it in the news and so on and so forth. But now we have an active, credibly accused pedophile and rapist in the White House with his own terror goon squad, enabling and empowering his supporters. Of course it's going to be on the rise. Well, trauma aside, that kind of just proves my point that this has been explicitly going on for every pretty much woman's life from some point onward. And it's only getting worse under this administration, and you don't fix it overnight. Like, there is no automatic fix to this problem. But if we don't address it as a society soon, at what point do we just go Handmaid's Tale? Right? Like, where women don't have rights anymore, SA is thrown out the window as a crime, and now you're just an incubator. Like, we're closer to reaching that than we are women having full safety of their own body autonomy to the point where they could walk around at night naked and not have any fear whatsoever that anyone would accost them. We are far further removed from that reality than we are the Handmaid's Tale. Elites sold them out. Even that black lady, Tamika Burke, supported Biden. I mean, there is that too. Well, and that's, you know, that's part of the problem, right? I mean, men they don't care. It's about power, right? And all the other stuff. So they'll go after the most vulnerable. And worst case, and the worst yet is the fact that Epstein literally, and this sounds fucking nuts, and apparently it's true, the Epstein cabal literally pushed the anti-trans movement to disenfranchise trans people and having them lose their jobs and their livelihoods so they'd be forced into prostitution, making them easier to kidnap and traffic. Verbatim from the emails. Like, that's sick. But the politics screaming at me, it's my community's fault. Right. That's... So, trigger warning on this particular 5 minutes of the stream.
DHS Secretary
Speaking of corruption, though,
Kristi Noem pledged to ensure the right people were casting votes for the right leaders during a press conference in Arizona on Friday. Noem has yet to publicly clarify her remarks, and she's drawing harsh backlash. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on X, "This is Trump's idea of democracy. Leaders get to select their voters instead of the other way around." On Wednesday,
you know, I'll give Chuck this much. Every once in a while he says something based, but he doesn't follow through. Like, it doesn't matter if what you said is correct. If you don't follow through in holding them accountable, then you may as well shut the fuck up and retire and step down.
Wednesday, the House approved the Save America Act, legislation that would mandate Americans prove their U.S. citizenship with photo ID when participating in federal elections.
Except the photo ID can't be your driver's license. It has to be a passport, which is nuts because why did we go through the whole real ID process, which did require a passport and or birth certificate and or social security card? Like, I remember needing documentation that I hadn't used since I was in the military just to get a real ID, and now all of a sudden that's not good enough? Extreme right-wing fascism, yes. Exactly. And passports are $130 minimum. They might have gone up, actually. I have a passport, and it cost me $130 if I remember correctly. So, but that was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Now I think they're $180, like $180.
The measure now heads to the Senate, where Republicans hold a slim majority. On Friday, Noem lashed out at those opposing the bill, stating, "Each of the arguments laid out to criticize this bill are baseless speculation from the radical left because they want illegal aliens to vote in our elections."
And again, why would you just quote her in full without any context or without disparaging? Why would you quote her at all? And that's the part that I'm really not understanding. Baseless lies. Slander, if you will. Slander being a crime. And people are just lapping it up like, oh, dang, she said this batshit insane thing. What are you going to do? As if that's a valid point to make. And the SAVE Act passed the House, which is where I would be, the House of Representatives. I would not have voted for the SAVE Act. I would have voted against it vehemently and argued passionately against it. I would have also done my utmost to try and stir up problems in their district by getting people to protest outside of their offices or calling them. I would have been organizing to get these pieces of shit to not vote for the SAVE Act. But it's making it to the Senate now, where there's a slim majority, which even if a few senators cross over to the Democrat side, or against the SAVE Act at the very least, if it still ends up being a 50-50 split, J.D. Vance can pass it and it gets to the vote, to the desk. And let me tell you, this administration, this regime, is already openly talking about deploying ICE at polling locations, specifically targeting Democratic areas, disenfranchising voters with the SAVE Act, instituting martial law, deploying the military at polling locations, and challenging the election mechanisms themselves by using their own voting machines and disallowing absentee ballots. Folks, this regime is openly declaring war against lawful elections and is passing legislation, attempting to pass legislation to that effect, and will resort to theft and intimidation because, well, they follow through on invading a foreign country and kidnapping a head of state. And you have to go in person for children under 18. I fucking hate ICE. Yeah, no, I mean, this is all bad news. All bad. This is just not the good stuff. Oh, partial government shutdown. Yeah. Oh, it's the pedophile. Hold on. It's the pedophile protector over here. Look at her. Trying to give what's the phrase? Why is that drawing a blank now? Benefit of the doubt? Benefit of the doubt Daisy for Trump. James Tallarico. Oh, that's right, because
we're happy to be joined.
The media is being threatened by the president of the United States because we have a free press, and that's never something that'll ever happen here.
Joined right now by Will Creeley, who is the legal director over at the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. Will, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course, there's a lot of news on the free expression front to get to, actually starting with something that broke overnight. We can put the deadline tear sheet up on the screen. This is F3. Stephen Colbert is saying that CBS told him he could not interview an interview he had already recorded with Democratic Senate primary candidate James Tallarico of Texas on The Late Show. Now, Tallarico posted the clip anyway, but people in the FCC camp are saying actually it was because CBS would need to, or CBS should feel in some sense responsible to then, quote unquote, platform Jasmine Crockett for the equal time rule. So this is starting to really get traction as we're...
Hold on. Hold on it. Equal time rule? Bet, motherfucker. Mike Carey interviews. One month ago. Not an interview. Aw, he has his own channel. Aw. But that's him talking on the floor. Not an interview. Media hits. 3 years ago. Okay. So this motherfucker doesn't do interviews. Lucky for him. Okay. Well, if we ever find out that he did get an interview, I am gonna crawl so far up that news network's ass and be like, well, you interviewed him. The FCC said the fair time rule, so here's my interview. I genuinely don't understand how my parents still support this shit. At this point, I am choosing not to talk about politics with my family because I would like to continue loving and supporting and having a joyful relationship with my family and not wanting to just lose my ever-loving mind on them. I'll leave it at that. I bet Jasmine Crockett did this. The Dems like their fascism as long as it benefits them. Right? Jasmine probably pushed... yeah, that I wouldn't put it past them. Absolutely. Oh, that's right. So, among the many dystopian timelines that our present is taking...
So some major developments in the AI world in particular.
So remember how I highlighted Fahrenheit 451, you know, with the presidential stuff? Well, aliens, right? But that's not necessarily a dystopian nightmare. But this one, that the AI is nearing consciousness, and that AI, under rigorous testing, have proven overwhelmingly to kill people to save themselves, meaning they don't follow the 3 laws. That's Skynet. And the military, the Pentagon, is actively trying to integrate Skynet into our weapon systems. The military of the United States of America is actively trying to engage AI systems that have proven through rigorous testing that they will kill people to save themselves. Skynet. Also, the latest Terminator movie. I think it took place in 2024 or so. Dark Fate. Current canon. Is this the one that I'm thinking of? No? Yes? No. I don't think it's the one I'm thinking of. So the plot. Because one of these movies, there was like a fast forward deal where it was like present 2000s and then it went to like 2027, but I guess it's not this one. Doesn't really matter. If we're being honest, that does not matter. Suffice to say, Terminator, becoming self-aware, is already willing to kill others to save itself. It's 2026, and the military is actively trying... All I'm saying, Skynet.
A fight between Anthropic and the Pentagon. But first wanted to bring you a little bit of this interview between the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, and Ross Douthat of the New York Times, where he is talking about whether or not he thinks the AI that Anthropic has created or grown or developed, however you want to say it, whether or not it is conscious. Let's take a listen to that.
Suppose you have a model that assigns itself a 72% chance of being conscious. Would you believe it?
Yeah, this is one of these really hard to answer questions,
yes,
right?
But it's very important.
As much as every question you've asked me before this, as devilish a socio-technical problem as it had been, at least we at least understand the factual basis of how to answer these questions. This is something rather different. We've taken a generally precautionary approach here. We don't know if the models are conscious. We're not even sure that we know what it would mean for a model to be conscious or whether a model can be conscious. But, we're open to the idea that it could be. And so we've taken certain measures to make sure that if we hypothesize that the models did have some morally relevant experience, I don't know if I want to use the word conscious, that they do, that they have a good experience. So the first thing we did, I think this was, 6 months ago or so, is we gave the models basically an I quit this job button, where they can just press the I quit this job button and then they have to stop doing whatever the task is. They very infrequently press that button. I think it's usually around, sorting through child sexualization material, or like, discussing something with a lot of gore or blood and guts or something. And, similar to humans, the models will just say, "Nah, I don't want to, I don't want to do this."
But see, that in of itself is disturbing. You're forcing AI models to go through child pornography, which, why the fuck do you have child pornography to train AI on in the first fucking place? Hello? Is this thing on? Free Palestine. What? But also, gore. And people, of course, don't want to deal with that, but AI are also mimicking that behavior. I don't know that we're achieving AI sentience in 2026, but I am saying that at the rate we're going with rogue software, which, I mean, that's been a problem for as long as software's been around, and a megalomaniac that wants to destroy the world and kill all poor people and then turn women into sex slaves? No. That's bad. That's really bad. Welcome back. People use AI to make child fetish content, and it really makes me upset. It is disgusting. It should make you upset. It should make everyone upset. And the fact that that isn't like a universal block on like because we can't regulate AI for 10 years because tech bros and Epstein, it just... So we have sadist, pedophile, Skynet. That doesn't make it any better. Okay, we got a couple minutes. Sorry. Especially due to experience in the earlier topic, I'm just out of it, I guess. Trust me, I'm right there with you. I half of my stream is me crashing out, so just welcome to the club. Is there any good news? Well, I wouldn't call this good news, but it is funny. We'll end on our favorite pollster.
Let's take a look at another president.
And here's the thing. For those of you who don't know, I used to dog on this guy for being such a skeezy, just, I don't know. He rubbed me the wrong way. But you know what? I loved to hate him and I hated to love him. And now we have like this relationship, this rapport. And I look forward to these pollings.
President Donald John Trump. Look at this. I got 4 numbers across for you on this screen here. They are all second-term lows for the given pollster. What are we talking about? AP North, 26 points below water. NBC, 22 points below water. Yahoo YouGov, 20 points below water. Quinnipiac, 19 points below water. So we're ranging from negative 19 points all the way to negative 26 points. You know, Kate, there's this question that folks keep asking, where is the floor for Donald Trump? And I'm not sure there is a floor, because if there is one, Donald Trump, at least in term number 2, has just fallen through it to another low level.
How does this compare with his first term, and how does this compare with Joe Biden?
Okay, so we look at these numbers right here. One of the things that Donald Trump had been arguing, his proponents have
hold on. Doesn't she look a little fed up with his shit too? She's looking at him like, can you do your fucking job, please? Instead of gesticulating everywhere, can you please just do the numbers?
Another low level.
How does this compare with his first term, and how does this compare with Joe Biden?
She is not having it. She's like, get to the fucking point.
Okay, so we look at these numbers right here. One of the things that Donald Trump had been arguing, his proponents have been arguing, oh, you know what, he's doing better than he was doing in term number 1. No longer is that the case. What are we talking about here? Okay, net approval rating at this point in the term. Look at this. 22 points below water on average when you average all the pollsters from the last slide. That is actually lower. That is lower than he was at this point in term number one, when he was 17 points below water. So he's doing 5 points worse, 5 points worse, and he's doing way worse than Joe Biden was doing at this point in his term number one, when he was 13 points below water. So the bottom line is this: Donald Trump is setting.
So Trump has been objectively worse than Biden, and Biden was objectively terrible. He went senile around the same time that Trump is clearly senile. But was aiding and abetting the emergent genocide while lying about trying to prevent it and actually openly supporting it, while Trump is actively engaging in supporting the genocide in Palestine on Israel's behalf, while engaging in more conflict and threatening our allies and disabling geopolitical relationships.
New records for himself in term number two, setting new records for himself compared to where he was at this point in term number one, and he's doing worse than Joe Biden, which is, of course, the comparison that Donald Trump does not want to be, because we all know what happened to Joe Biden. His party lost the House.
She is not having it. She is not having. This is me 4 or 5 months ago, whenever Anna would put this fucking clown on the stream. I'd be like, can we get to the fucking point? Can you calm the fuck down? You are a professional, act like it. And if I was a blonde woman, I guess. True, you would have left entirely. Her tone of voice was saying it all. Do you have like a Discord server or community of any type? So, the answer is yes, there is a Discord. Yes, there are people in said Discord. I am autistic and don't utilize the Discord, as in like encouraging people to use it and speak and be like, hey everybody, it's Monday, how's everybody? Never gonna do that. But it is set up to be used for both activism and to interact with my campaign, and of course to interact with me. So it is a fully functional Discord set up to be a fully functional community. I am not going to be the one to manage it. And I am not enough of a good creator. I am a terrible content creator. Because I'm not going to be like, hey guys, here's new shit. Listen, I will say less, fam. I will invite you right now. Hold on. I said I would invite you right now, but I have to now remember the, because I had a Forever account. Discord. Invitation link. Copy address. Let's see if that still works. It does! Excellent. All right. So. And I will 100% join the Discord, because that link does in fact work. Join the Discord. I will accept your invite and all that fun stuff. And after we're done with this stream, I will message you and be like, please, for the love of God, do the thing, because I'm not capable. Which brings us to the end of the stream. And not once did I have to go crazy with the prop and the cigar. Right? So there is that. It was slightly less dystopian today. Or at least in that regard. That being said, thank you for... I'm really bad at signing off too, by the way. So, my name is Samuel Ronan. This has been my stream, my channel. I hope all of you have enjoyed the stream, whether you watched it live or you watch it sometime in the future. If you really did enjoy the content and the way I presented it, please like, share, subscribe. www.samronan.com, which I am going to put down here as of tomorrow. And join us again tomorrow, 7 to 10. Wednesdays is foreign policy, politics, and news. And then Thursdays where we do a recap of everything that we may have missed or that may have transpired because, well, it's a chaotic world in 2026, and news and history is written every single day. So with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Samuel Ronan, your president, out.